I assume we have no more chairs. Chairs out there, all that. Good evening. Good evening. Let's call the meeting to order, please. Today is Tuesday. It's February the 13th. We're here at the Civic Center for our regular monthly meeting. If you would, we'll please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin? Here. Ms. Albrecht?
Here.
Mayor Kathy?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Putnam?
Here. Okay. I don't have any comments at this time. We'll start, Mr. Bloughlin, you have anything?
No.
No.
Nope. All right, we move to the consent agenda, where you have an opportunity to give us your viewpoints on whatever you think is appropriate. No citizens' comments at this time? Okay. Next is the consent agenda. We have the January 23rd minutes. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any corrections or additions? Any opposition? Minutes are approved 5-0. Jeff? There you go.
That's a first, by the way. Maybe. I think there was a couple citizens that wanted to talk real quick.
Under citizens' comments?
Yes. Somebody? Did you want to speak?
If it's on the agenda, it'll be okay. Well, then you need to come to the podium. I didn't see your hand. I apologize. Watch your head.
I'm Robert Chandler. I live at 106A, 37th Street. Been a resident of Mexico Beach for 6 years now, and I received a notice the other day about what we talked about tonight, about fire protection. Had some questions about it. Didn't know whether this would be a
No, that'll come under the public hearing.
Okay,
That's an
it'll be
agenda
later on
item
then.
that will be
Just want to let
addressed.
you know that I would like to speak then.
Absolutely. Not a
Jump
problem.
for your head.
Jeff, can you slide that back against the wall?
Yeah, slide it back. That thing's dangerous.
That's just going to cause a problem at that location with this many folks.
Flag on the back. Have somebody stand there and come on.
Yeah, we don't want to use your.
Thank you. Okay,
All right.
now,
Jeff Britton with Dewberry Preble Rish. Take a couple minutes here to go over our current projects. The DEP grant, the sand bypass beach restoration project we have. We've got the executed contract with DEP, the city does. Dewberry Preble Rish and our partners, MRD and Associates and Anchor CEI, have an executed task order with the city, and we're beginning work on the project itself. We've actually already met with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service out there on the beach. It's kind of a preliminary pre-application, just to let them know what we're planning on doing, let them hear what we want to do, and talk them through the process. We talked timelines with them. The goal is to have permitting complete by the end of October. So the Fish and Wildlife Service is on board with that. They're not committing to it, but they understand that that's the desire, that's what we're shooting to do here. We've got a pre-application meeting scheduled with DEP on February 22nd over in Tallahassee.
just take a moment, if we could, let that be about the third warning. Try to mute your phone, it'd be sort of disturbing. Thank you.
Survey work, field survey work is scheduled to commence in either late February or the beginning of March for the beach restoration project. Survey trucks will be down by the canal. Surveyors will be down in the area of critically eroded beach. where we're going to be adding sand via the truck haul. The Canal Parkway Pavilion, CCCL permit has been issued for the project. I believe Philip and company have already set up some silt fencing and have started looking at getting that underway. Stormwater improvements design and permitting project that we are working on this year. We've already completed the survey for it. Dina Bautista out of our Port St. Joe office is exploring some grant funding that might be able to pay for the construction of the improvements. We met with the SRF folks over in Tallahassee a couple weeks back, and they talked about funds being available for stormwater improvement projects. And so that's what we're looking to utilize for the construction portion of this project. Mexico Beach paving and stormwater improvement projects. This is the 33rd Street extension, the 23rd Street paving, and the Canal Parkway extension projects. All three of those have been submitted to DEP. We have a request for additional information and RAI back. We're responding to that and getting it back into DEP. The main question with the submittal was, we're trying to do some small stormwater improvements at the tail end of these streets, similar to what was done on 24th Street. But under the CCCL permitting rules, you're not allowed to export any material in the project. So anything that's excavated needs to be spread around in that general vicinity seaward of the CCCL line. But we put it in the plan because we want to go ahead and get kind of a footprint or a method to treat stormwater, or at least manage stormwater at some of the other streets that have flooding issues after events, 39th Street, for example. And so anyway, we're having the conversations with DEP and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service about how to best handle the excess soil that we're going to be excavating and where we can put it. So anyway, we should be back into DEP with our resubmittal within a week on each of those projects. So with that, that's all I have for tonight. Any questions?
Jeff, is the sand going to be on the west side of the canal that we're pumping and hauling?
It'll be the sand that we dredge from the canal, from that sediment trap on the west side of the canal. That'll be stockpiled on the east side of the canal. It'll be loaded into trucks and hauled down the beach.
Down the beach.
Correct, and that'll be outside of turtle season from
Gotcha.
November 1st to end of April. So,
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. No, just that, in this case,
Okay,
They were
Connie
in.
Rice there, 504 Maryland. We tried this several years ago, just trucking the sand down. And at that particular time, when we did that, that sand was not white sand, if you will remember. And we had to then stop and go and get the sand from wherever that pit is that we go get the white sand. So my question is, I doubt the sand has changed much. That's where they got the sand from before, wasn't it, Mayor?
No.
Didn't they dredge that? And
it
they dredged that sand and it was brown, not white.
bleached out.
Huh?
It bleached out, just like it does when you leave it down at the, when we had the stockpile, big pile of sand.
Yes,
It bleached out. They went and got sand from the pit,
right,
but it wasn't for the same
purpose,
purpose.
all right.
Yes.
Peter Costello on Missouri Drive, what was the status of the alternate water supply line?
alternate water supply project, we are talking with the folks that own the property on how the long-term use of the site's going to be managed. We have one test well in, we're talking about putting a second one in, but we want to make sure that the second one that goes in is going to be in the final location of where the proposed water source is going to be.
Do you know how deep that second well will go?
Second one's going to be around 150 to 250 feet deep.
So it won't be Florida not further.
It will not be. The first one is, the current test well is 890 feet deep right now.
Oh, Florida, did you test the upper Florida? Or do you have a report? Did you make a report yet on that?
We have a report, our geologist is still working on finalizing. As soon as we get that done, we'll get it over to Mel, and then however it wants to be disseminated, it can be.
Okay, yes.
The problem with this is the natural order in the Gulf out there has extended the beach from the canal to the pier and a little bit beyond, because the further you build that jetty out, the further it's going to extend the beach out. It's just the natural order here, and has been as far as I can remember, and I've been here all my life, is that the southwest wind brings the sand in from down at Shell Point, and you never get any coming from the east coming back. So every time you extend that jetty out a foot, it extends the beach out a foot. However, the pier kind of keeps the sand from going on down to the Elk Governor and on down to the rest of the beach. So don't extend that jetty any further, because the mouth of the canal used to be 100 feet back in shore.
We aren't
where it was.
discussing extending the canal, the jetty.
Understand. Thank you.
Did you hear what I said? We are not discussing extending
Well,
the
the
jetty.
last plan I saw that they had was to extend the east jetty.
Oh, the east jetty.
Yes, sir. The east jetty
jetty.
is the one.
Okay.
So if you extend the east jetty, that moves it up. I'm with you 100%.
I got you. I misunderstood you.
No need to go any further.
Right, okay. All
Want
right,
me to respond real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. What we have a proposal and task order for right now is just the design of improvements to the existing jetty system there on the east side. We'll also do a design for the extension of it, but that's not proposed to be built. Our coastal engineer, who's run several models, feels that that's a worthwhile project, but right now the city doesn't want to spend the money on that, so there's no plans to extend that east jetty. So if any improvements are done to the current one, it would be making it sand tight, so that when sand is dredged in place on the beach side of those jetties, it can't filter back through. That would be the only improvements that I know of that would be installed at this point in time. But the design work is going to be done in case it was something the city wanted to pursue down the line and funding was available, we would have the design and permitting of it already done. But as it stands right now, there's no plans to extend it.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Sure thing.
All right, Captain, you have anything on your report? We have a wealth of knowledge before us.
Well, as indicated, the chief wanted me to work something up where we had, the last few years, pulled stats on each of our trackable categories for call lines. I'm not gonna read them all off the screen, but the graph on the back is probably worthwhile to know that the call line increased from 100 calls over last year in January. The only thing that I can say that's gonna do is, burglaries are down in January. Last year we had a run of burglaries. Everybody can hear? Oh, okay. We had a run of burglaries last year in January. We did not see that this time. What we do have a lot of is the fraudulent calls that you get every time, about this time every year. Somebody playing like they're Duke Energy or wanting you to send a gift card through Winn-Dixie. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. I do need to highlight that it being tax season, the IRS is not going to call and ask for your social security number and your bank details over the phone. They'll send you a letter. They'll send somebody to your door. Okay. Unless there's any specific questions I've got.
Any questions for police?
I don't have any.
From our citizens, any questions for our police department? Captain, thank you. I'm reminded when I see this, in light of my comments, to be careful what you ask for. There's a lot here that I'll have to digest, but I do need it so I can see what the edge of the page is there. If we could somehow move that line over a little bit. See how that's cut off?
First page. The graph doesn't give it justice because it's.
I understand. Thank you, Captain. Chief Simmons?
Yes, sir. I'm not going to go over the fire assessment stuff. What I'm going to go over is some statistics and kind of what we've done since I took this job in September. And then before we go over questions on the fire assessment, we'll do our PowerPoint again. So there were some statistics given last meeting about registered fire departments in the whole country. I'm not going to go over all that, but what I am going to go over is the 478 registered fire departments in Florida. Just so we understand, Florida's a different dynamic, so I just want to compare. This comes from FEMA, so it's all online if people want to look. Like I said, there's 478 fire departments. 34.9% of these are all volunteer departments. That's no paid personnel whatsoever. 12.8% are mostly volunteer. 16.9% are mostly career, and 35.4 are all career departments. The reason we see the higher number in Florida is because Florida's statute requires that. Other states are significantly less, just so you guys know. Other information is, obviously, everyone knows we received a letter from ISO shortly after I took this job in September 11, 2017, stating that we're going to be rated as a public protection class of a 10, and this will be published September 11, 2018 if corrections aren't made. Since then, we've worked on a plan total to come up with a plan to submit this. We've tried to make the minimum plan possible. This is not to build the most extravagant fire department. This is the bare minimum to get rated. And ISO approved what we put together, and that was hiring 6 personnel, which is 2 full-time per day. Our current points rating was 40.9 points, but until we meet minimum requirements, we will not be rated by ISO. So that would put us as a Class 6 from a Class 5 if we were to meet the minimum requirements. Just letting everyone know, all our members are mostly paramedics or EMTs. Just so you know, there's a question about our level of response on medical calls. They're all highly trained. We don't just fight fire. We do run medical calls, and that's improving greatly as we move on. The other thing I've been asked about is what I've done to volunteer crew. When I got here, the only 2 people that could respond that were certified were the previous chief, who's gone now, and an employee that used to live in the city who does not. He's still an employee for Public Works. Since I came on, our now Assistant Chief Travis had a pretty extensive firefighting background. We sent him to Ocala, we got him certified, and now we've promoted him to the Assistant Chief. He is the only certified member that lives in the city. We started a Firefighter 1 program. We have 1 student attending that right now, and that's to get them certified. It takes about a year when you're not doing it full time. If you go to Gulf Coast, you're looking at about 9 months to get Firefighter 2. So then we started reaching out and getting people that work close to here. We recruited 3 members from the Silver Flag training site 6 miles from the city toward Tyndall. These members work for the EOD bomb school. They're civilians, and their boss allows them to respond to fires while they're at work. He's a volunteer coordinator of Bay County. 2 of them are certified. 1 of them is undergoing Firefighter 1. So and then we recruited 8 more certified firefighters, but they all live out of the immediate area, which is Panama City Beach, and Weewall. So we're still attempting to get local members. I haven't had many applications at all. We're looking for members that want to join the department that are either certified or willing to become certified. We have a high support role already, so there's some questions about if we turn someone down. Well, if you're not interested in being certified, we already have 6 support members that don't want to be certified. At this point, we need more certified members to be more well-rounded. And before we can do that, they have to pass the Bay County Area Agility Test. It's a pretty tough physical test, and then I have to send you to a doctor's office, and then you have to pass that test too. Additional information is, so I understand people, I was tasked with coming up with a plan to fix the ISO rating. Regardless of whether we pass this or not, we're still going to be here, we're still writing grants, and we're still doing the best we can. We're just going to receive a poor ISO rating. It's not that the fire department's trying to fold or close their doors similar to what happened in 2012. We're still going to be here. We're just explaining that whatever the council chooses, I'll support that. But if we don't fix these plans that was approved, we're going to see a public protection class of a 10. So regardless of what happens, I want everyone to know the fire department's still going to be here. We still have volunteers. We just have a limited number of volunteers. And then the last thing is we received the statistics from 2016. They come a year behind. A lot of people ask about, well, you run mostly medical. We actually had a higher fire call percentage per fire station. We only run one than any immediate area, less a couple of rural areas like Youngstown or places that have a high fire calls. But compared to like Panama City, so we got this. If people wanted to look at it, I had it after the meeting. They take pictures, and it just shows that our statistics are not that much different than other fire departments. It's common to run mostly medical calls, and I just want people to know that because there's a lot of talk about that. So ISO, we focused a lot on firefighting, but when we train daily, I want everyone to know that we focus on those medical calls. We focus on those car wrecks and the calls that we run every day. It's just this is what's driving this push right now. So I just want to clarify that with everyone, and other than that, that's about all I got.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
I got one quick question.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned several of the volunteers are certified or on the way. Truly, as far as ISO and where we're looking at, how many volunteers do we have that are certified that will fit that description in their letter?
One.
Is,
Because the other ones may come from Panama City, but a 25-minute response time is not going to be accepted, and they look at the response times.
is this the individual I think you mentioned at the last meeting?
Our assistant chief that might be moving on base, he's trying to stay, so we're working on that right now.
So,
He bought an RV, so hopefully maybe that new campground will work out. So base is 12 miles away, that's close enough to count.
okay.
But if not, we're going to try to get him on Overstreet or somewhere close. We're working hard on that.
Okay, the other question I have related to that, you say he is the only one, but the letter indicates the chief could be, one of those.
I'll count. I'm always on call, so yes, sir. Unless I'm out of town, I'm coming.
All right, but do you live within that?
No, there's a little understanding there. He's kind of given us some grace period because originally his plan was, well, you need 12 paid firemen, 4 per shift. And when we looked at the numbers, the first time we all talked, we realized that was unrealistic for our city. So what we did is we kept submitting the numbers down until we got to the lowest number that he would accept. And that's where we're at with the 6 full-time. We're at the lowest number that he's willing to give us a chance. This still involves extensive volunteer recruiting and training, so that can't go away. So like I said, that we just went as low as we could that he said he would accept in the part of our plan. And the plan's been accepted by him, so, and there's a lot of email correspondence on that.
All right, Philip?
Yes, sir. Just touch on a few things real quick. For the month of January, we used almost 9 million gallons of water. If you look back at our little graph there, that took me about 8 months to learn how to do. Used about 9 million gallons of water and just over 5.5 million gallons of sewer was sent to Bay County. For sanitation, you'll notice that we picked up 37,500 pounds less than what we did this time last year, which the guys appreciate. They work hard. We dredged for we dredged 5 times for the month of January. We're good there. Trying to set up a meeting with DEP, FWC, and JCP about yes, that's a mouthful, about our dredging permit. We got some issues that we got to get worked out, and I want to try to get it all resolved, before something happens. That's pretty much it for the monthly report, but I did want to point out to the council and everybody here that our guys, Tommy, Andy, Ricky, they rebuilt the little walking bridge there in front of the Shell Shack and Marina, and the 14th Street walkover was also finished last week. They did an excellent job. Y'all please go out there and take a look at it, use it. They did an excellent job, and they built it in 3.5 days. That's not too shabby.
Pretty good. They did a great job. On the canal, are you talking about the reporting procedures, or are you talking about the permit itself?
Both. One of the things that we're supposed to have a tide marker. We've requested one numerous times, but they haven't brought us one. One of the other things is we got to double check our range monuments that we have. The last permit superseded the permit before that. And I'm concerned that our range monuments changed because now we extend 5,000 feet down the beach as opposed to 300, I think it was before. We were just discharging straight off the back of the dredge, not using the sand bypass pipe. Mm-hmm. So I got to confirm all that good stuff. And turbidity monitoring. We got to set up a class to get some guys trained because nobody knows how to do it.
Is that with the Corps or is that with DEP?
The turbidity is with the FWC and DEP. The reporting is with JCP, FWC, DEP. The marker...
JCP. I've never heard of them.
I haven't either until that's who we send a report to. I don't know what JCP stands for, but they're called the JCP Compliance Office. That's who we send.
Do you have a letter from these folks outlining these deficiencies?
I do.
Okay.
It's not in here, but yes.
Right.
I've got all my emails and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, could you put that graph back up around the water?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
What about the pavilion?
pavilion.
Yeah.
Going on, the contractor has been notified, and he is on task to start when we get when the weather's, I mean, he met down there Friday, and all of that is cleared to go. We're just waiting on him to tell us what day he's coming. Because we're not gonna take any material down there, didn't want anything down there till he was coming.
Makes sense, right.
So there will be a pavilion at the end of the canal.
Mayor,
Yeah.
the fish cleaning station, have we got that in place yet? I know we've got.
It's not in place, but
Okay.
everything is,
Okay to go, I know.
everything's to go, it's been ordered.
It's been ordered.
The-
We expect to see the cooler here this week. And then after that, once we get the cooler here, we still got a little bit of time, but we're gonna go ahead and break down, put our forms up, all that good stuff. And the pavilion, or the pole barn itself, I still think is 2 to 3 weeks out. But everything is moving forward. We got everything straightened out that we needed to get straightened out, and we're good to go as far as the power is concerned. You know, that was a big mess, but we got all that straightened out now.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Phil.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Clark?
Well, your financial report isn't in the packet because, again, I'm on schedule, so I finished it yesterday in my rush grabbing the fire stuff. I didn't grab the report for you, so I'll email it out. But we do have one thing pressing that I'm going to need council action on. If you remember 2 years ago, we put $100,000 in the CD, renews annually. It's up for renewal the 18th of this month, which is 5 days from now. Last year, we were getting 0.85%. I went out to get quotes for this year to renew for another year, and I was shocked to hear 1.95 for 1 year, 2 years at 2.05, and 3 years at 2.25. So I'm requesting we can do another year at 1.95.
Does that need our approval, and because it's a CD?
Yeah.
Okay, so Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any opposition? Okay, what else on your list?
That's it. I'll renew it and we'll be moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Administrator?
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, if you look at the building permit on the screen, you can see that in 2017, we set a record for the number of new homes built. So far in January of this year, we've already got 13. So we are well on our way to breaking that record again. And at some point, we're going to run out of land, I think, but it's not going to happen in 2018 nonetheless. We, of course, are always concerned about what the public perceives and the impression the public has on our workforce. But if we don't respect ourselves, how can we expect the public to respect us? So the only way to figure that out is to ask the city employees what they feel about other city employees. And of course, if you ask them face to face, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. You don't always get honest answers. So the only way to figure that out is to put some questions on a piece of paper, give it to them anonymously, don't sign their name so we don't know who said what. So I'm not going to read every question because it's going to take too long, and I know people are here for other reasons. But first of all, in your opinion, how well do the city departments work together? Under the ratings of excellent, good, average, fair, and poor will be scored between excellent and good. When it comes to your impression of other city employees and other departments, when it comes to friendliness, knowledge, responsiveness, overall impression will be scored between excellent and good. Do you think that customer service policy for all employees will be beneficial? 2/3 of the employees said yes. When it comes to providing excellent customer service to citizens, what do you think about personal appearance, work area appearance, vehicle appearance? Yeses on all of those by all the employees. And if you would give an example of one department that stands out in your opinion, providing excellent customer service. We had some spattering of maybe an occasional police or public works, utilities for staying after hours and working on stuff, but far and away the number one answer was sanitation. And no question, those guys are out in the rain, they're out in the, well, we don't have snow as much as we did up north, but it almost snowed, you know, this year, by gosh. And those guys are out in it all the time. And for, even in the summers when it's hot and you have that fish smell, those guys are in there doing their job, and they don't complain. You know, they will always wave at you, they'll even yell your name if they know your name and that sort of thing. So without question, they are our flagship department, no question.
Absolutely.
And this is what I thought was interesting. What kind of training would help you provide excellent customer service to the citizens? We had your normal answers. Number one, communication, interpersonal skills, conflict resolution, patience, getting better computer skills. But this one made me giggle. It said, none. It was natural to me. I'm glad I don't know who that was. And this, I think, is a testament to our workforce as well as our department heads. I know what is expected of me at work. Unanimously, yes. That means the people know their job and the department heads are successfully telling them what needs to be done. Also, my supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. Unanimously, yes. I think that's another good testament. Another question. My associates or fellow employees are committed to doing quality work. Once again, unanimous. So I think we all respect one another. We all have different jobs to do. Some may be perceived as being more important than the other, but even though we have one department that outshines the others in customer service, we're all there to serve the public, and we're all there to do a good job for the public. Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. Okay. Any questions for our administrator? No. Shift change, okay.
Watch your head.
All right, next on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 688. Do I have a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please, any opposition to reading? Please do
Can I ask
so.
a question?
Absolutely.
You're talking about the beach vending, right?
Yeah, ordinance 688.
Right. 10,000 to 14,000 pound vehicle. What the 10 to 14,000 pound vehicle? How big is that? Is that a four-wheeler? Is that a bulldozer? I know it's not a bulldozer, but the complaints that I have had was vehicles running up and down the beach, period. And so I just wanted a better definition of what we're talking about with the vehicle size. Does anybody have an idea?
I think it says it's a
Three-quarter ton truck or bigger.
Three-quarter ton truck?
Yeah, so not a half ton truck, like a 2,500 or bigger would qualify.
The last meeting, we had some materials that went along with the ordinance to give some examples. So in the, I'll just read through some of them. In the 10,000, 14,000 pound range, you're looking at a Ram 3500, a GMC 3500, a Ford E350, or sorry, no, F350, Ford, a Hummer H1, so fairly large. And then in the 14,000 to 16,000 range, it's a Ram 4500, GMC 4500, Ford F450. So big trucks,
Okay.
not the very biggest, but big trucks.
All right, there's a motion and a second on the floor for reading. Is there any opposition to reading? Please do so.
Ordinance number 688, an ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, prohibiting businesses from operating on the beach without a beach vending permit, providing an exception for businesses meeting specified conditions, providing definitions, providing beach vending permit approval process, providing permissible locations for activities conducted under a beach vending permit, providing permissible activities under a beach vending permit, providing heavy wooden lounger-style chairs on the beach after September 30th, 2018, or prohibiting, providing a limited exception to leave no trace for holders of beach bending permits, repealing ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an immediately effective date.
Motion for adoption of ordinance 688.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second? Is there a second? Chair relinquish the floor.
Is
I
there-
second the motion. I'll relinquish my.
Oh,
to
okay, I
you.
thought you did already. Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 688. Will you call the roll, please?
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
No.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
No.
Mr. Putnam?
No.
All right, moving on. Next is the motion ordinance 688 failed. Next is the public hearing on the fire assessment. I want to take just a moment. We will, we have another PowerPoint. After the PowerPoint, we will sort of break from our routine of you will stand at your chair. It's just too difficult to maneuver. Just please speak so we can hear you. You will not have to come to the podium when we get to recognizing for the public hearing. So prior to that, we will go ahead with the PowerPoint presentation that's prepared.
All right, I apologize to you that have heard this already, but there's some changes. So first, we're going to talk about Insurance Services Office. On September 18th, 2017, the city received a letter from ISO stating that the new rating for the city of Mexico Beach would be going from an ISO of 5 to an ISO of 10 on September 11, 2018 if the condition of the department does not improve. What does this mean to the city? Going to an ISO of 10 will have a direct impact on the residential and commercial insurance rates. Rates could see up to a double increase. What does the department need to do to prevent an ISO of a 10? Maintain 4 certified firefighters on every fire scene, implement a training program, maintain a station and adequate equipment to provide for the coverage, a backup fire engine, and submit a plan to address the above concerns within 60 days. Plan of action. With the dynamics of the city of Mexico Beach, we cannot solely rely on volunteer firefighters and will need to hire firefighters. Our current building is in need of serious renovations or replacement. Current deadlines will not allow for a full replacement. Implement a training program and perform a full equipment analysis and plan for implementation. Steps to resolve. Step 1, this one's been completed. With the significant costs associated with the needs of the fire department, the city needs to explore options of what it can do to fund the project. Use a fire assessment and move the fire department out of the general fund. Go out for an RFP for companies that specialize in implementation of fire assessment fees, or have the council provide an emergency waiver of the purchasing policy to obtain a firm immediately. And this is a step where GSG was hired as our consultant. Step 2 also completed. Work with the firm to develop a budget of needs to bring the department into compliance. Work with the firm to provide a study of the dynamic of the city to determine rate for properties, examples such as commercial versus residential, and adopt a resolution to implement non-ad valorem assessment. This was passed at the first meeting of December. Step 3, view the results of the study and move into the implementation phase of the fire assessment. Determine whether to proceed with implementation and move that process to phase 2. This was also done at that December meeting. Step 4 is where we are today. Today we're here to discuss and adopt a resolution to implement a fire assessment. We will review this presentation of proposed rates for a fire budget over the next 3 to 5 years. Step 5 is what's next. Mail out assessment notices and begin collection of year 1 assessment. Include with the assessment reimbursement of costs associated with the implementation of the fee. What are the consequences of non-implementation? Back to the beginning of potential loss of insurance coverage, significant increases in insurance rates, loss of the department, and loss of fire protection. Since the assessment notice hearing was mailed out to everybody, we received a lot of questions. I'm trying to give you answers to those questions so we won't hopefully have to repeat them, because these are the common ones we heard. There are 13 of them. Number one, can't the city implement a sales tax? We've had a series of residents state that in states such as Georgia, they have adopted local half-cent sales taxes to fund the fire service. The state of Florida does not allow municipalities to implement their own sales tax. The authority rests solely with the county and the state. There was a time where this was allowed, but the cities that did not opt in then may not go back now and implement that charge. Number two, why is the rate not calculated by property value? The level of response provided by the Mexico Beach Fire Department is the exact same amount of manpower and equipment no matter the structure. A $1 million home is going to get the same protection as a $100,000 home. Number three, why doesn't the county help us out? The county provides fire service to those areas that are in unincorporated Bay County. They charge a tax rate of 1.38 mils for that service. Mexico Beach does not pay that millage rate to the county. The county does, however, provide us $15,000 annually for the fire protection that the city provides to the unincorporated portion of Bay County that falls in our response area. Number four, what other cities pay a fire assessment? Panama City Beach just implemented a fire assessment of $78 for a base charge, a $5 administrative fee, and then there's a portion based on property value. Bay County charges 1.38 mils, which is $1.38 per thousand of value on your home. And Springfield also has an assessment, but I'm not sure how it's calculated. Number five, why do we need to hire firefighters? The Florida legislature in 2011 changed the requirements that 4 certified firefighters respond to all fire calls. Mexico Beach simply does not have certified volunteers that live locally and respond consistently. The department currently has 1 certified volunteer, as we spoke about earlier, and he may be leaving, and the assessment only provides for 2 paid firefighters per shift, and we will still be relying on 2 volunteers to respond. Number 6, what will these employees do when they're not fighting a fire? Firefighters will respond to all medical calls, provide first responder level of service as they do now. Firefighters will also ensure all equipment is in working order, station is clean, and also continue with ongoing training. And firefighters are also protected by certain labor laws that apply to all 24-hour employees. Number 7, what relief is available for low-income homeowners? The resolution adopted initially exempts homeowners that qualify for the hardship or senior discount on their water bill. If you qualify for the senior rate or hardship, you will be exempt from paying anything in this assessment. Number 8, how was my rate calculated? Based on the property appraiser's website, square footage and number of dwellings were discovered. Each dwelling is assessed at $356, whether it be a condo or a single-family home or a duplex. Vacant land is assessed at $54 per parcel, and commercial is assessed at 50 cents per square foot with a $4,075 cap or 8,150 square feet. What will my insurance change if this isn't passed? This has been one of the most difficult questions for us to get a solid answer to. When we reached out to the city's property insurance carrier that the city has, he stated that if I had to guess, I would say if the city does nothing to work with lowering ISO, it is possible that your fire rate could double. The employee insurance representative who does the insurance benefit coverage, he responded by giving us 2 examples, which you can see below as a ISO of 5 for a $300,000 home at $1,551, an ISO of 5 at a $228,000 home at a $2,251, an ISO of a 10 for a $270,000 home at $4,299, and an ISO of 10 of $4,542 on a $312,000 home. Why doesn't the department apply for grants? In 2016, a grant was applied for to do building repairs and purchase equipment under the AFG grant. The department did not get awarded that grant. The department has received and been awarded a grant for $2,400 for computer equipment. In 2018, the department was awarded a grant for $28,104.80 for SCBA equipment, and that was received today. The St. Joe Foundation has also just made an award to the city for $4,600 to purchase thermal imaging equipment and a 4-gas detector. The department has submitted another AFG request for a vehicle in the amount of $370,000 and $25,000 for bunker gear. That has not been awarded, so we do not know if we'll be getting that one. We've also submitted to Firehouse Subs for $25,000 worth of gear. And there's other numerous equipment donation requests, and the list changes daily. Just last week, we got $20,000 from the Tranquil Harbor Homeowner Association. Number 11, why isn't a new station included? The preliminary estimate for a new station is $2.1 million to meet current codes. A new station does nothing to assist us with ISO, and that is what we are looking at right now. So this assessment is based only on the necessities and does not contain the things that do not help the ISO rating. Number 12, why am I paying twice in a year? The first assessment's for fiscal year 17-18. In order to place on the property taxes, notice must be provided almost a year before. That's what we passed in December so that we can do this next October. The city has a deadline to implement before the next budget cycle of September 11, 2018, and it is technically one payment per year with the initial payment recommended to be due March 31st, 2018. Year two's payment is on the tax notice. Although your tax bill is payable November 1st, it is not considered delinquent until April 1st, 2019, which means they are exactly 1 year apart and not at all in the same year if we follow this method. November will be the date to pay to receive the statutory discount. Number 13, is the new fire chief just trying to build an empire? Going back the last several years, you can find numerous meetings where fire concerns are raised. Research of solutions has been ongoing. In July of 2015, Assistant Chief Scott Baker provided a lengthy presentation of critical needs of the fire department during a budget hearing. Myself and the former Chief Stengel attended a fire assessment training by GSG in February 2016 that took place in Tampa to begin exploring the implementation of a fire assessment to address these needs. Chief Mark Bowen from Bay County Fire spoke to the city and the council about the need for fire coverage in October of 2016. Chief Simmons was employed September 1st, 2017 and tasked with continuing this process and research. During the interview process, one of the big things we looked for was someone who had experience with ISO and was going to be able to hit the ground running to start working on this project. On his 10th day of working here, the city received its notification September 11th that the ISO was going to attend, bringing the issue to immediately high priority. Recommendation for implementation. Staff recommends assessment of 79% using the general fund budgeted amounts to offset the difference. $281 for residential, 40 cents per square foot commercial, and $42 for vacant lots for year one. Based on response from the public, also recommended is providing property owners time to pay that first year assessment. Instead of the recommended March 31st deadline, I want to request the council give people until May 31st to pay this first assessment, allowing 3 months to pay before becoming delinquent. Also with this, we could allow improvements to begin immediately if this is adopted by cash flowing the improvements in-house and reimburse ourselves when the assessment money begins to come in. If the fire assessment is adopted with these recommendations, fire assessment bills will be in the mail at the end of February, early March. Future years' assessments will be collected with your property taxes. So if your taxes are escrowed and paid monthly, your fire assessment will also be paid monthly and escrowed. If you pay quarterly installments, you'll also be paying that quarterly in quarterly installments. And the hardship exemption. If you currently receive a hardship on the water bill payment, again, you'll be exempt from this assessment. And please contact us at City Hall if you think you may qualify, and we can take care of that. And that is my update of what I have.
Okay, we will move to the public hearing, and again, we will recognize you by simply raising your hand. You can stand at your chair, identify yourself and your address, and be aware that there are multiple people, and if your question gets answered, try to be brief with if you want to ask again, try to be aware of what's been said. So with that said, we will move forward and simply open the public hearing on the fire assessment. That's, we had one last Monday. So whoever wants to, again, raise your hand. I'll try to recognize you. Yeah, Chuck, go ahead.
Understand. Now, each of you have a folder in front of you that has over 75 signatures of urging you to table this ordinance until you can get further ISO approval, because ISO provides individual steps as to how to decrease your fire assessment there. Now, let me tell you, there are over 450 counties, cities, and communities in the state of Florida. Less than 50 of those have what you are recommending that we have right here. How about the other 400? How are they getting by that we can't get by that way without going with this full assessment here? We have, as you can see in the audience here, primarily so many of the citizens here that feel like that this assessment that you're proposing is way out of order in that there's over 400 communities, counties, and cities in Florida that doesn't have to have this particular fire department that you are assessing us to have. Any question?
No, sir. Thank you. All right, come on, Gary.
Gary Woodham, 113 North 38th Street, Mexico Beach. I contacted my insurance agent today to see how my insurance would be affected if we went to a 10 or a 9. Right now, according to what I've been told, 10 is what we really are, but they're not going to call it a 10 until September. My insurance right now, I pay $2,769 a year. If we go to a 9, it will go to $3,600. That's $830. We're talking about $356, which to me is simple to pay compared to this. People, if we don't, at the end of the day, pay this money that we're talking about, the value of your property will go down if you don't have insurance in this town. People who make payments monthly will not be able to do it because they can't afford to do it the way, if we deny it. In my opinion, the 356 needs to be implemented and we need to move forward. We drug our feet too long with the fire department and we need to get a fire department that we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Bobby Paul, 215 Kim Cook. You, the council, are custodians of this city. It's your job to make sure we are safe. Y'all have drugged your feet, you done other things, you have put it now where we're gonna have to pull out of our pocket. When we had a volunteer fire department for I don't know how many years that done a good job. You want to say ISO, you want to say 2011, whatever. What have y'all done to help us be protected? Y'all have done nothing. I feel like one of the problems we have, there's not but one elected person on that council. I blame the city on not having people run against people that just grab the chair. I think y'all should reflect back on the problems of where we at now. There's over 300 volunteer fire departments in this state. They have got all kinds of different ways to do it. An incentive program is something you should be researching and finding. Not worried about a fire chief, but it's something you should be doing your job. You represent the citizens of this town. Do your job.
Can we say that?
Well, this is what we're doing. Remember, we're trying to listen. What you say when you get through. I saw a gentleman on the wall. Okay, come on, George.
George Williams, 800 Highway 98, that's Paradise Shores. I happen to be the chairman of the HOA board, where we have 47 condos located in that building. And we are 100% sprinkled, aluminum studs, probably the best building that Mexico Beach has to protect our fire goes. And I also want to say this, and I'm not bringing this from Georgia, but I serve on the city council where I live, been there for 24 years. We just got through going through an ISO inspection. We have a 100% fully volunteer fire department. We went from a 6 to a 4. It took us 3 years in preparation for that ISO inspection to be ready. And what I say to you tonight as a council member, I can applaud the chief. He's got a big job ahead of him. But let me tell you something, ISO is not going to quit coming here. First of all, I don't see how you ever was a 5. I mean, it had to be something under the table or somebody paying somebody to be a 5. Because I know we were a 6. We have 5 outside volunteer stations that we run, and our budget's $120,000 a year. Now, we do have a sales tax, option that we do fund some of that equipment with. But just to run those volunteer firemen, now, we don't pay a one of them. So we don't have any $35 here, $35 there for them to go to a fire. But I can tell you, I hope, supposedly you hired someone to help you with this ISO inspection to get you to where you do. Because if you stop and think about it, 6 firemen, 2 firemen on call, and I've been in the volunteer fire department myself. I had my chief on the phone this afternoon going back over some of the things that the ISO asked for. First thing he said to me was, do we have an agreement with Gulf County? If we have a mutual aid, it's no good. ISO won't recognize that. If we have an automatic aid, that means that 911 would dispatch Gulf County when they dispatch Mexico Beach, and we will pick up points for that ISO.
We have that.
We do have that.
Yes, we also have a mutual aid with Tyndall. We can't have automatic with them. There's federal laws on that. But we have an automatic with them and Overstreet.
All right, let me ask you this then. Let me ask you, said you're going to have 6 paid firemen.
2 per shift, yes,
You're
sir.
going to have 2 that man the station.
Yes, sir.
And when those 2 firemen go to a fire, and you have a fire that calls for 2 trucks, how are you going to get 2 firemen in that truck and fight fire? You can't tell me that you can have 2 firemen in another area that they can respond, and ISO is going to give you, ISO is not going to give you credit for those 2 men going to that fire by themselves.
I'm aware of that. If you looked at the PowerPoint, we discussed that we have to have 4 going to the initial alarm. That is the requirement.
And that requirement, that if ISO is allowing you to do that, then they're not doing what they did to other areas. And ISO is the same in the state of Florida as it is in the state of Georgia.
If you read the PowerPoint, so the difference between us is if you saw the 2011 requirement is a Florida requirement, not a Georgia requirement, and that's where our 4 come from. In Georgia, you get credit for a non-certified fireman. I know that for a fact. In Florida, it's illegal to fight fire when you're not certified, and that's where we get the hardball in Florida.
Well, our volunteer firemen are certified. You have 3-to-1 ratio for every paid fireman. You have to have 3 volunteer firemen. But what I'm telling you is the NFPA does superimpose the Florida statute, I would say, for the number 5, but it's not that. Let me ask you this, if you have 2 firemen on call and 2 of them have the flu, what are you going to do with 6 firemen? I'm telling you, the ISO is going to let you buy with 4 to 6, but it'll be 12 next year. It'll be 12 the next year until you get to that $1 million. I can tell you that.
Thank you. Other hand, yes, sir, right here.
My name is Tony Downs, and I live at 1120 15th Street in Tamango Plantation. I've owned my condo there. There's 40 units there since 2010. Within the next year or so, we'll be permanent residents here, but I've been coming down here for 35 years. And I got a very simple, I'm a retired police officer, so I understand public safety and the response to fire. Just out of curiosity, how many fires have you all had for structure fires and business fires in the last year, maybe?
In the last year, we had 8 fire calls. 5 were actual structure fires. That's way higher than the Florida average. Panama City has fire stations and had less than 20. Hopefully that was just a bad year. Usually we see what happens is the number will come down, but we actually had an unusually high number over the last year. I was not here for any of them. That's on NIFRS reporting. That's a federal reporting system where we pulled that.
Okay, I just got one other question. If it says implemented, you said that it's due March 31st, but you can pay May 31st. Is there any penalty if you wait until May 31st to pay your?
No, he recommended, initially the recommendation was March 31st, but due to answers, our staff recommendation, the council will decide, was we recommended extending it, is what our recommendation was. There's no penalty.
One other simple question. This gentleman right here stated that it could possibly continually escalate the amount that we're paying for the assessment. When you have an extra assessment, do you have to have another meeting to okay that assessment?
It's voted on every year. We can't tie another council's hands, but we did a 5-year average, so the plan is not to change this number for 5 years, and that's why our number is where it is. And if we continue to have growth, like Mr. Mel explained earlier, I don't see us having to change it 5 years from then. So I'd like to see this number be set closer to 10 years personally, but we have to vote it every year, so it could die next year. It could get voted, and then it could die 2 years later. So every year, they're going to have to re-vote it.
Thank you.
Sir, what was your name when I missed it?
Your name again, please?
My name is Tony Downs.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Porter?
Peter Purcell, 54 Drive. Just in listening to all the comments last week and this week, there still is it seems a whole lot of reservation and doubt about the way we approach this. We realize that it's been kicked down the road for some years and things kind of snowballed. And that's what we have. Just in an overall way, could we not just sunset this proposal in 3 to 5 years, revisit it every year with really good accounting and work out kinks? Because right now, I think a lot of people think we're getting a Cadillac and we could go down the road with a Chevy. So could we come back and have a Chevy in a year and say, maybe we don't need this much money or this much people or whatever, but there were a lot of good questions last week, Lisa Logan, the guy with the shell shack, you know, and so forth, and those have gone unanswered. So I think we don't have all our ducks in a row. I think that's what it is. It's not, I'm willing to pay for years, but forever, and mission creep is something that, you know, a lot of people think happens all the time, especially in Mexico Beach. This would be a way to reassure your citizens that you're on their side, and it would keep every city council up to date on not kicking that can, but, you know, coming up with hard facts. And I've got one question for the chief. Is the ISO office, is that Insurance Mitigation Corporation?
It's Insurance Services Office. They're a private company. They are for profit, but unfortunately, all the states but 11 of them use them to rate insurance ratings. So we don't operate our fire department solely on ISO, but it does affect our citizens' insurance rates. So this doesn't, it's one of the many things we have to follow. NFPA is one of the things, we're less than 25% compliant there. That's not uncommon in this area. OSHA has rules, and then the Florida state. So ISO is just something that's a private company that is for profit. It is probably owned by the insurance companies, is the speculation. But unfortunately, we are one of the 38 states that use that number, and it does affect us greatly. There is 11 states that have done away with it. None are in the southeast.
And again, going back briefly to the way you looked at just use in square footage, and, you know, the shell shack just happened to pay 2,200, whereas the government only paid 4,000. There's no vertical assessment in that approach, as well as I think Lisa brought out.
Yeah, Sandy can answer that question. She works for Government Services Group. This is who we hired to help implement
I
that.
saw that, and I can do that again on the video, so we don't have to waste our time. But it does seem, and it gives people a sense of unfairness. We may be legally required to visit with all this and address it, but if we could get maybe our attorney to help maybe mitigate this by saying, well, you know, these companies do this. I know she said that Panama City is using they're using the per parcel approach and not the historic approach. Why can't we revisit that in a year and say, well, let's go to the cheaper approach, because they're paying, I think, a lot less than we would. So what I'm asking you is a dynamic approach to every year we go and try to get it as cheap as we can and get into the Chevy and not drive off into the sunset and cancel. So I would just ask the council to consider coming back and revisiting meaningfully in a year with some good data, and in the meantime, trying to address all the things that came out this week and last week. And that's the way I think everybody wants the same thing. They want a safe city, but it's just a snowball kind of hit us in the face on the beach, and we didn't expect it.
We will be doing this every year.
No, you will be voting on the rates every year, but if you want to do a new study every year, we'll be happy to come back and do a new study every year, but it costs you a lot of money to do that.
It's much simpler in
So-
subsequent years.
That's what we did, a 5-year average. Let's take the cost of the study.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sue Hogan. I live at 425 7th Street. Couple of things. First of all, this is a great presentation. However, it is so fast that it's a lot to take in. And I'm just curious if there's any way that we could get a copy of it written for anybody who would like to take it home and study it a little bit, because it left me in the dust.
That's no problem at all. If you come by City Hall, we'll get you a copy.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll also put it online today.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very
So if y'all didn't hear that, he's going to put it online tonight so you can see it.
Thank you. The other thing was, I think I heard something on there about why we do not do millage rate versus just an overall assessment. And I need to understand that. I mean, I know most places, they assess your value and, you know, it comes out of your property tax. So I didn't quite understand that.
The way we talked about that was, so we only have one fire station and one fire truck. We're deploying our entire crew to whatever it is. So take a city like Panama City that has 5 fire stations and 10 fire trucks. They're going to deploy a different amount of crews, a second alarm, a third alarm. Our first alarm dumps everything we have. We're just that small of a city. Now, we're still going to have the automatic aid coming, but that's on initial alarm, you're going to have us, Overstreet. We haven't had a response for them in over a year. And then you're going to have St. Joe Beach. On second alarm, you're looking at people coming from a long ways away, like Panama City, Bay County, Highland Park. And then, so there's just not a lot coming. So we deploy all our resources almost immediately on a fire call. We don't base it on like a city like Panama City where they have so many stations in a small area. And that's why it's different. You see, like if your house is $1 million and someone's house is 40,000, we're still going to send all our crews to it. We're not going to send where a bigger city might send 6 engines or 3 engines depending on the size.
Right, I do understand that. I'm still not quite sure about the millage rate, but I'll work on that myself.
I think you heard me. The question is.
No, Sandy might be able to better answer it, so I don't.
Wait, just a minute now.
Wait, he's my husband.
I
He thinks
understand
I
that,
can't do
but
it,
we have
do
to
it.
have some sense here of order of what we're, ask your question again, then please. If you didn't, did I not hear you right?
No, I said, I'm not, okay, did you want to say something?
I think, okay, I misunderstood you. So it was too late to, when I took this job after the new budget was already formed, so we
Okay.
couldn't put it on the millage rate. If the council chooses to up the millage next year instead of doing this fire assessment, they have every right to choose that. They can do whatever they want to do when we revote this, but it was too late when I came on. Now, I'm sorry.
No, that's perfectly
It went fast. It was in the PowerPoint. I
Well,
apologize.
everything has gone fast. And so I do understand what you're saying. Now, my other question would be, would it not behoove the council to do a millage rate assessment to see how much, I mean, possibly, would you all take in more money to a millage rate versus an assessment? And I'm just trying to find out, because this trying to make it even for everybody doesn't really make it even for everybody. There are some people that can afford $356 or whatever it is that you're asking. There are some people that have probably been here for a very long time, have a place that they've had paid for forever. They don't have a lot of income. They might not be able to pay this assessment. If they're doing a millage rate, they would be paying a very less amount than what I would be paying, less of an amount on a millage rate than what you're assessing me at 356 or whatever that is. So that's just a point that I would ask you all, because everything has gone so fast and we do have a lot of questions and we don't understand. We're not trying to fight all of this. We just need to understand what it is.
Can we stop and answer that based on? All right.
Certainly.
Okay. But that's something that's come up before.
Why didn't we use the Panama City Beach?
No, why didn't we use the millage rate?
Well, the chief just explained that. You guys, by the
I just
time
want to make sure that you understood. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I just want to know if it would behoove the council to check that out and see, how that goes. You might even get more. Would they get more?
You
from a
would
millage
set the
rate?
revenue. It could be revenue neutral, but you would have to determine what the millage rate would be. You guys would decide how much revenue you need, and then you would set the rates or the millage at that level. So it would not benefit you. You wouldn't get any more money unless you set it to get more money. So that would be your decision.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that I misinterpreted your body language.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay.
Just as a council meeting, very quick, can I may
Well,
I point
remember,
out?
at the hearing, we need
I know.
to try to answer their questions.
That's the only question. As
Okay.
one council member, I think that we have to listen to every one of you. This is a particular tough year. From my point of view, if it comes about, we need to look at millage rate or any other process that will do the same thing and save our citizens money, including me, then I think we need to do that
Okay.
in the future.
Okay, and I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I asked that is because
property tax is deductible, tax deductible. Your assessment is not, as I was told, I think I was told that it is not. So that was just another thought process. Okay, let me see if I have anything else. I have a lot between my house and one house over. It's an empty lot. Has nothing on it but beautiful big 1,000,000 pine trees. It gets assessed $50. Now, I don't quite understand that, because if you're saying it's across the board, it's still gonna take fire department to come and put those trees and everything out. Why are they only getting assessed $50? If you did it on a millage rate, you know, it's property tax, then that's more fair to me than these trees going up, and they're gonna get that house, my house, and my next door neighbor's house.
Your house and the next door neighbor's house.
Yes.
You answered your own question. You're protecting your house and your neighbor's house, not that vacant lot.
But that vacant lot should be included too. Why should they not be assessed as much as I am? Just because they don't have anything on it. They've got trees that probably would burn much faster than my house would.
And this is back to the methodology of call volume, correct?
And also, if you were to impose a millage rate, the lots would pay less anyway.
So if you're gonna do it based on value, the lot would be paying less too. So the
Could
lot
be
is
more
paying
fair
less
to
than
that,
this.
but it would still be more fair to that individual. I rest. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
In the back, way in the back, against the wall.
I have, like Gary, went and had a long talk actually today with my insurance agent, and it was not good news. He told me if this goes to a 10, to expect my insurance rates to go up at least $800, probably closer to $1,000. That my property value will go down. It makes it much harder for people to get a mortgage. So if you want to sell your property, it's not gonna be easy to sell it if it's at a 10. So it's just not good business, and we need to be very mindful of that. We could do ourselves a lot of damage if we don't do something now.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wiley.
Bobby Wiley, 46 Magnolia Drive. I talked to some guys today in the insurance business as well. I think we have like 8 major carriers. Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but out here.
That's what we were told.
Yeah. 6 of them would cease to write policies. It's not even a question. We're 10, they don't write policies. That's it. That would leave us with 1 or 2 that might write policies. And they're gonna be anywhere from 30 to 40 to 50% higher on everything that we do going forward. I think one other point that hasn't been brought out so far. If my house catches fire, I really would like for somebody that is a skilled firefighter to come and put it out. I don't wanna wait an hour and a half for somebody to have my city or we want something like that. I want them to save the house. And today, I don't think they can do that. They try, but they probably couldn't do that.
You have one over here.
Okay.
I got a quick question. If we're in such a rush and we need volunteers out here, why can't we do like a housing incentive to get volunteers out here? Give them a budget, like, hey, I'll give you $500 to come out here and live. What, can we not pay them? Is that what
No, I'm going to tell you what we tried. I'll explain it. There's a way to do it. So colleges do that in states where you don't have to be certified. Alabama and Georgia really do it. It's a good program. The problem with us is it takes a year to get certified, and to have it, you have to have twice as many people. So now we have to have 8 homes. When you don't have college students, you have to have homes big enough to house a family. I like the live-in program, what you're talking about. So now we're talking about 8 homes in Mexico Beach big enough to house a family. It gets way expensive.
Less than $1 million a year.
It's multi-millions the first time, so there's no way to fund that kind of money initially, and then you don't have a paid fire department. It's a program that's been tried a lot, and it's usually supplemented with paid personnel. Auburn University does it actually. They have a really good program there, but it's supplemented with full-time staff.
So you can't find like people like out at Central that are already certified?
They're not certified in Florida.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Find certified. What about our police officers? Do we have certified police officers?
We have certified police officers, but they're not firemen.
Can we cross-train them? Come on. I'm just trying to save money. I've been here 35 years, and I'm not trying to make a joke about it. I mean, this kind of seems like funny to some people, but to me, I've been here 35 years and I haven't had this problem. I mean, they're talking about insurance. I can barely pay the insurance I'm paying now, so I'm trying to weigh both sides. If we could do something fast, and, you know, put in $100, $200 a year to get volunteers back up where we need to be, then maybe that's something we can look at, but, you know, I don't want to lose my insurance either. So, I'm just thinking of ideas.
On a legal side, I would question, if you tell someone where they have to be and what they have to do and what time they have to be there, they're no longer a volunteer and they're an employee. That would be my only concern.
Yes, sir.
Question on, coming back to why can not the police also be fired?
We tried that, but I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm personally, we've tried it here in Mexico Beach twice now. It's been unsuccessful. I've looked at the history. I'm also cross-trained. I can tell you this, it doesn't work. It's failed traditionally.
Why?
Would we pay them twice as much to take twice the risk?
I understand that, but I mean,
George, you already did that.
maybe be a simple thing to get through. I'm Eric from Tech House. There's a couple different things, and that's one of them I was gonna bring up, and there's, I guess, 30 questions that came up tonight, and I'm just, so many of them, I can't remember everything I really want to talk about. I mean, obviously, one is, you know, I mean, the millage rate is one, what you make it fair for people, because I own a business, and it's gonna cost me a whole bunch. Number two is, how do we take care of the immediate problem? Are we gonna go to a 10 tomorrow? Or maybe we'll just go to 6, 7. I mean, everybody's talking like we're going to a 10 tomorrow.
I released a letter. We're publicly classified as a 10 September 11th. The plan they approved, which we've been talking about September, is this plan. This is the only plan they approved. It is my understanding with speaking with him that if we do not follow this plan, we're pretty much going to a 10. That doesn't mean we can't fix it yet later, but it's a year and a half before we can ask for a reassessment. So if we choose to do this, and we choose not to pass it, we'll still be here, I'll still be working hard, I'll put in grants, but what will happen is, you'll see a 10 will come out. We don't know what's gonna happen. That's what we all talked about. We don't know what's gonna happen with the insurance, and then we're a year and a half in that limbo before we can fix it.
And following through a little bit, I mean, DIOSO is a independent, blah, 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 that 33 of the states follow. I mean, can we not look into the other ones, and this is the one that's
I mean, it would take a push for insurance companies not to look at that, so I don't know.
I understand that, but I mean, let's see what's out there. And the other thing, I guess, it just drives me crazy trying to figure out all these questions this quick. And I'm wondering how quick this whole council's thinking about that, and what our options are. And, well, I understand, and you've got half an hour before you vote or whatever it is. How many fires we had this year?
We had 8 fires in the last year. 5 were structure fires.
This year?
Since January?
Since, yeah, January and February 13th.
We had 1 this morning, but that's it.
One at my restaurant, was it?
No, it was at a condo. We had an air compressor catch on fire. We got there quick enough. We were able to turn the power off before it actually burned up anything, so there was no damage.
I truly believe that, I mean, we
Ladies, excuse me.
and you've got more than just this on your plate as a council, but we need to really think about what we're doing, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, way in the back, yes, ma'am.
Patty McElroy, Oceanside Village, 39th Street. My question is, I can see, yes, there's an immediate need to do this assessment this year, but as a council, going forward, if this is what it costs to run the city, you need to do the right thing and just raise the millage rate, because then we can, it's tax deductible in our taxes. If that's the cost to run the city, put it in our taxes, not do a special assessment every single year.
And honestly, yeah, we could.
All right, go ahead, Lance.
Lance Godwin, 900 Highway 98, got Gulf Foods. I
my question is for the commercial side. Basically, what I got from the lady last week was that we're being condemned for the number one things that everybody in this room lives here for. The fact that it's not commercialized. That we like how it is. But we're taking the burden. I mean, I know everybody's got a burden, but mine at the grocery store right there, everybody that works for me lives in Mexico Beach or Overstreet. I pay them more than anybody else. That's why I got a stack of people from the dollar store, Exxon's wanting to work for us. Eric employs them, the mayor employs them. We try our best. And mine's gonna be over $4,000. And I have as much storage as I have grocery stores. And it's hard on people like us, anybody, when you got a seasonal income, to come up with this. I know you're talking about doing it this year, but this hits us right now. It's slow. Everybody in Mexico Beach knows it, other than the road construction having to sit here. It's slow right now. And this is a big hit on everybody, but really it's a big hit on commercial because we're taking a blunt of it. Very big hit. There's several of us that are paying over $4,000. And like we said, I know, El Governor, we got a cap. That's 31,000 square foot. I got 9,000 square foot, and I'm paying the same thing. And that's a lot of difference. And we can't just raise our prices. Since I've lived here, I've been coming here for 30 years, lived here for 4. I've been trying to drop the prices in there so people want to come back and shop. And that's hard to do for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, over, that's all hands, but I guess. Just a minute, I want to make sure that, I don't want to go back to anyone till I'm sure that there are others that won't speak. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Lydia Downs, Palmetto Plantation. I'm still not clear on how all the other volunteer departments, how they receive acceptable ratings. How are they getting acceptable ratings?
What department are you referring to?
Well, that someone had quoted.
There's one in Gulf County that's not a 10.
Well, I applaud all the people in here and their knowledge. It's amazing, but I thought someone quoted that there were a high percentage of volunteer departments in the state of Florida.
I went over that number. That was incorrect. I gave the 478 registered fire departments. Only 34% of those are full volunteer. That's from FEMA. If you want to go to that website, it's apps.usfa.fema.gov, and you can see the percentage for Florida. That sounds like a percentage nationwide. Unfortunately, due to our statutes, Florida is one of the lower volunteer states. That's a fact.
So the 34% in the state of Florida that are volunteers,
That's volunteer only, yes.
are they all at 10s and receiving their AY insurance rates?
A good number of them are going to attend. Every community is different. Everywhere to the west of us has paid fire departments. To the east of us, we have all volunteer. There's one of those departments that's rated a 4. The rest of them are 10s. We just met with their chiefs. They're trying to resolve their issue there, and that's part of what we didn't want to see happen. We didn't want to go to the 10. Right now, those departments are waiting for their reassessment to try to fix it, and it's been unsuccessful over the last 2 years.
So the volunteer department that's a 4, what do they do? What do they have? How can we
Cost of living, the type of, we addressed this in September, and I have not had one application from a person who lives in the city to volunteer, and I wish I would, that was interested in getting certified or could meet the physical demands that's required by the state, and they just have a different demographic there. It's a blue-collar worker industry, so unfortunately, we've tried here, and it's just been unsuccessful in my time being here. And the previous administration, if you look at the history, I haven't seen certified volunteers on the roster with the state since 2010.
Big Well, of course, 12 Watt Citizen Drive. You mentioned that nobody had come in and volunteered to be a fireman. There was some people talking in the post office the other day, and a man told me, I wished I'd got his name. He said, I went to the city hall to see about volunteering, and they said it was not taking applications. That was what he told me out of his mouth. One other point, the 1.38 meals that unincorporated areas pay the county, right, for fire protection. That's correct, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it a state law that Mexico Beach couldn't pay the county 1.38 meals for fire protection?
When he going up his PowerPoint, that was addressed with Chief Bowen. Unfortunately, we're too late to implement that, and I don't know what happened with that. I wasn't here. So, he never gave us a price on what they would charge to do it, to contract it out.
All right, well, the next point being, there's a place going on outside of town. It's Sugar St., right?
Yes.
There's going to be 68 houses out there, correct?
He-
They're going to be paying the 1.38 mills to Bay County.
Bay County will in turn pay that to us if they want us to cover it.
Let me finish before you just start. So I've been told that the first responders for that Sugar Sands has got to be Mexico Beach. And they're not paying Mexico Beach a dime.
Right on.
Is that correct?
That's not correct.
It's not correct. So then they are going to pay Mexico Beach for fire today.
Yes, just like now we get the $15,000 to cover that vacant land. When they build homes, we'll get more money to cover it. They pay us to cover it. It's not free. Right now, we get $15,000 to cover 2 pieces of property that are unincorporated in Mexico Beach. That's how well we get paid.
All right, question. So $15,000. So you're going to get another $15,000 when they build 68 homes?
No negotiation has happened. There's been no discussion. We're supposed to go back when that happens. We have not negotiated that rate yet. We have no idea what that number will be.
But you're looking at $800 and something thousand. $15,000 is a drop in the bucket. Anyway, I made my point. 1.38 meals to the people in this community right here would be a lot less than $356 per person or per household. If you can get fire protection from Bay County, which is rated as a 4.
Absolutely right.
In the back, yes, sir.
My question is, I'm 307 Mexico Beach, or Maryland Boulevard.
Your name, please.
Harry Russell.
Thank you.
Okay. What's the backup plan? If this is adopted today, okay, I now owe you, and I'm gonna round it off, say $400. I make out a check to Mexico Beach for $400 and pay you. Okay, what guarantee do I have that we don't go to 10 anyway to begin with? Okay, with that in turn, what am I getting out of this? I'm not getting a guarantee by anybody that we're not gonna go to a 10. Even if I get that. Second part, what happens if you can't hire, you adopt this, you can't hire 6 people at $12 an hour or whatever you're paying? That's certified here. We're back in the same boat. We're still gonna go to a 10.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Point well made. And, well, those that have already spoken, we have to be, I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity. So, in the very back.
Lance Irwin, 58 First Street, Mexico Beach. 2 quick questions. Last week, the gentleman mentioned that the city has an emergency fund, and I think he mentioned $1 million. And I don't know anything about that. And I know if we have such a thing, it's an important thing to maintain. But the first part of the question is, could we use part of that to offset some of this cost? The second question is, last week it sounded like the problem with having the fire station in Mexico Beach is the firefighters have to live in Mexico Beach. Is it possible for us to get with Overstreet, Highland View, 2 stations that are not accredited, and build a community fire station? Would that legally get us around that restriction, and then the firefighters could look anywhere in that area?
So merging with 2 other 10s would just compound the situation to be worse. But to be a special fire district, I had the number 20. There's 27 in Florida. They're all highly funded. It's usually a community that wants extreme fire services. That's your ISOs of your 1s and such on. But it takes legislator approval to happen, so they have to pass a state law to make that happen. And my understanding is, I've never tried to do that, but that it takes a long time. I guess they meet maybe once or twice a year.
May I answer that? Because I had that question from a citizen. I contacted the group, I was looking at special districts, I can't remember the last name. They're out of Tallahassee. They're an association, I think it's Special Districts Association, out of Tallahassee. They were able to talk to their general counsel, who is also their representative trying to get things through at the state level. He was able to help one special district for fire last year very well, very knowledgeable. His comment was, number one, as it was said there has to be a bill passed through legislature, where, of course, at the end of a session for this year, 2019 would be the first we could even attempt to get one there. Once passed, it has to be signed by the governor. You have to have then a resolution by, if it's our county, Bay, by Gulf County, if they're involved, allowing these districts to happen. After that has happened, there has to be a special election for that special district for each person that is a registered voter to come in and vote. We have to pay for special elections, both counties in this case. I asked it, okay, if we started today, what would be, since you've done this before, you're the lobbyist, what would it take? How long? His comment was, at the very best, 2020. Most likely, if everything really went well, 2021. And he did also mention that at least current legislation, or the group in Tallahassee, hasn't really been friendly to these type of situations, nor has the governor. Of course, the governor, because of time in office, will be leaving at the end of this year. But it's not been a friendly atmosphere in Tallahassee. Best answer I can give you, and that comes from the group that actually works with the districts statewide and are the lobbyists.
Thank you. Several people have
Yes,
talked
sir.
about community financing. What about the emergency fund? Does that exist? Is that a possibility?
I'll leave that to someone else.
Emergency funds do exist, $1 million. They do exist, they're real.
Is this an emergency?
Good tough question.
Is it an emergency?
If you ask a citizen, I don't mean to speak on turn, but who among here doesn't think this is an emergency? If we don't get it from town, from what y'all are saying, if we don't get the fire station, I mean, it's gonna cripple our town. People are not gonna be able to sell their houses, businesses are gonna have to close. But yet, this is a huge burden on us to put this in, and we're not even sure about funding it, so many questions. So it seems like it's something we should at least discuss. Even if we did part of it from the emergency fund, it wouldn't be such a big burden on the citizens.
This is an every year assessment. Okay. So, and I can only speak for me. To me, I would not deplete our emergency funds for something that's gonna occur every year. That's not wise. So that's my answer to that.
If we had a hurricane or a severe tropical storm, that is an emergency for the entire city. We would need to use that money for that.
In the back, way in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, I'm Cindy Jolly, and I'm from 703, 98, been here about 4 years. Love the community, but I feel like we just sort of missed the opportunity for the millage rate. And had we had sort of the foresight and the timing and all the stars lined up, we'd been having a different discussion today. I do like the idea of some of the emergency fund as possibly bridging some of that to get us to the opportunity to treat this as a millage rate when the period happens. Because either way, there's no one that has said that there is no guarantee that our ISO rating is not going to increase, and we know most often things go up and not down. Sometimes in communities, like the gentleman said, he was able to work hard with council and the department and reduce their ISO rating, and that's really took a lot of hard work. But I applaud the chief trying to define resources that are available, and that campaign needs to be going on always, always. And we should never tell anyone that we're not accepting applications, period. Whether they're qualified or not. I do feel like strongly we need a fire department, we need an ambulance as severely as we do a fire department. And we also should treat it as a village rate would be my opinion.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. John Alblot, 209 Virginia Drive. Just a quick question first for the chief. You said, sir, the Florida statute, Florida requirement for on-scene responders is 4 certified fire.
Florida requires them to be certified. ISO requires 4 on the initial alarm.
Okay, and are you, now I might have missed this at the beginning, I'm just trying to understand it. Are you saying that with our mutual aid agreements with Tyndall and the other departments?
It has to be from your department.
Has to be from your department?
Yeah, they have to be Mexico Beach firemen. That's what would make you a 10. It doesn't. We always help other departments. That's never going to stop.
It has to be for within the response.
Yeah, they have to be a member of our department, not a member of another department. So a lot of people say, why don't we steal another department's members? That's bad blood, and we don't. That's not what we do.
Okay, I was just confused about the numbers. And my other comment is, I understand that we missed the millage rate for last year. This would have been awesome to get, escrowed into my taxes. If we are going to adopt this, that would have been a much better thing. So I think that's something we should think about as we move forward. But for the current bill pay now, per your plan, if I'm understanding it right, you have a chunk of money that you have to pay to do this, correct? And it sounds like you took off just the number of structures in Mexico Beach and then divided that number right there, and that's how you came up to the number that you're quoting to us. Is that how you did that, Adrian?
Do you want to do a brief overview on the methodology? Because we keep getting into millage
Sure.
and all that.
Well, because this is what it seems like. It seems like everybody, regardless of income, is getting the same initial bill pay in the next couple of months. That's what it sounds like. I'm getting 256 or 300. They're getting 300. They're getting 300. Everyone's getting the same, but there's a variance in income levels and ability to pay that. I wonder if, if we do adopt this plan for that initial bill pay, if you go back with your calculator, take a look at everyone's millage rates from last year and fair share that amount. I understand saying that mine might go up. I understand that. But there's a lot of other people in the town where I think if we adopt this plan, their initial bill pay will go down a bit, and that might make it more palatable moving forward. Just a thought as.
Well, we're just talking about this year, and I don't disagree with what people are talking about the millage rate. I personally feel that'd be the fairest way to do it, but we can't do it. I mean, everybody seems to have the impression that we're up here having a big ball and just not, no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about a good friend of mine who I may not be invited to his New Year's Eve party next year, but this thing's been going on not in the last week or two. We've been talking about this since September. We've had it on the agenda. We've had 7 or 8 people show up. Nobody got excited till it gets in your pocket. I can understand that. I would have probably been the same way. But ISO, on top of all things, is from New Jersey, which should tell you something. But I don't like ISO any better than you guys do. It's just, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. So we're trying to come up with the cheapest way we can do this. Well, one thing that's going to happen is we're going to go to 79% if we vote this in, which would be $281 instead of $300 and something. And then we're using some monies that we already have to try to eke by this year. I've talked with my company. My person, she's not even in this area, in this part of the state. They had to call their home office, and the guy that called me directly from their home office said, I will give you the information if you won't use my name or if you won't use my company name, because it's what I think is going to happen there. Mine would go up between $800 and $1,100. Now, I could insure for less because I've got a pretty nice home and I insure it because I believe in insurance. But if I wanted to write the very least that I could get by with, it might just go up $300 or $400. I'd rather pay $281 and see it stay here in town where I can look at it every day than send more than that to an insurance company that could care less about Mexico Beach.
Right, and I think I may have misspoke. I'm not saying we retroactively try to get this escrow in. I'm saying that right now, my fair share of the bill pay based upon the plan is $281. And that's the same fair share as someone next to me who maybe does not pay that same amount and has less income. So that's what I was asking. If we have a couple weeks to maybe fine tune this plan, this initial check that I've got to give you the next couple weeks, if we could fine tune that to make that match a little bit better people's income levels and based upon last year's millage rates. I'm not saying wait until November to do this. I'm saying fine tune the bill pay if that is possible. That's my put.
Thanks. Right behind Gary, yes, sir. Right, Gary. Sir. Gary's sitting in front of you with a blue shirt. All right, well, that's, go ahead, Mr.
Howard Diggs. I live in 905, 598. I live right across the street from the Gulf Food. And I really feel bad for him, because he's really getting upset. Now, my question is this: what is the projected cost of these employees for the fire department with the benefit package? And also, what is the gross amount that the estimate is to bring all this in? The third thing I want to say is I retired from the city of Quincy in 1999. I was a supervisor in the public safety department. Folks, public safety don't work. You can't be proficient in 2 occupations. Thank you.
Gary, turn around until I can't think it. There you go. Yeah. You, there you go. You, okay. Thank you.
Anyway, my name's Robert Chan. I live at 106 QA, 37th Street. And I was looking at the notice that was sent out, about the system and everything. And some of the numbers here kind of hit me funny. We had kind of an indirect comment about the square footage here, 8,150 square feet. That seems to be such an odd number. And some of the people that have more than that are going to pay the same as somebody who's got just that amount. And that just doesn't sound right. There's something wrong there. Is there any possibility that that number could be revisited and looked at again? Where did it come from?
I know who can answer that one.
Go ahead. I don't know, we're all looking at each other.
Do you want me to talk about, do you want me to give an overview of what an assessment is?
Try to answer just that.
Okay.
Address the cap question, though. I was
Keep
going to ask
asking
for that as
questions,
well.
but she can answer them.
Okay.
Other non-residential.
Where we got the square footage cap is we have to look at the resources that are available to the city. Now, based on the resources that are available to the city and the NFPA standards, National Fire Protection Association standards, it says if a fully engulfed fire happens in a non-residential building, they have enough resources to put out a fire in a building that's 8,150 square feet. Therefore, that's the cap that we can put on, because we have to just, like with ISO, you have to look at their resources for their city. That being said, it's not like they're not going to have mutual aid or automatic aid going to come in and help, so that the fire would be put out. But to have a valid special assessment, we have to just look at what resources are available for the city, and that's what we did. If for some reason, as they get more resources, they get another truck, we can look at adjusting that square foot cap, which would bring more square footage into the commercial units and possibly bring the commercial per square foot rate down. But we've got to get those resources before we can bring them into the mix.
Just to follow up on that, so under Florida law, your assessments need, the charge you make needs to be roughly proportional to the benefit that's being derived. So if our fire department is small and doesn't have a lot of trucks, and can only provide benefit to about an 8,000 square foot building, this isn't going to hold up under Florida law if we charge them the equivalent of a 30,000 square foot building, because we don't have the resources to provide them 30,000 square foot building benefit. We only really have the resources for that 8,150 square feet. That's the theory. I don't think there's any bright line rules there, but if we're way out of whack on the proportions, it's not going to hold up.
Thank you. Okay, way in the back. Yes, sir. In black shirt.
All right, Scott McElroy, 103 South 39th Street. Chief, I'd like to commend you first of all for accepting this.
Thank you.
Just leaning into it and taking it head on, because knowing what you were coming into and then getting hit with it, that's no small undertaking. And you can see how passionate people are about it. But you spoke to it a couple of times tonight, the training pipeline. This timeline doesn't start with the passing of this assessment. This timeline starts when you fill these positions with certified people and are able to start this process moving to chip away at this list. So we're automatically at this elevated rate.
Yeah, my plan the plan I submitted that was approved that would put us at a 6 shows us hiring around June or July, and that's contingent on this passing tonight so the funds could go through. That's what the plan I submitted back in September said. And then as far as filling the positions, I came from another fire department that recently just became a 3. I was part of that ISO audit that went from a 5 to a 3. And I'd like to think that I was a good enough supervisor that people would follow me over here if there was an answer about filling positions. So the idea is to hire full-time certified firefighters before my last update to ISO, which is July 12th. And as long as we have them on the books by then and we can show their certifications, that's the plan I implemented. So I implemented a plan that we can succeed at. A lot of people are saying we don't know we'll succeed. Well, the plan, we're still on track for that plan that I submitted to this council my second week on the job roughly. So that's the plan. We knew we couldn't hire them right away. This takes time, and we started addressing this, day one, and we've been in the news, we've been in the media. But like Mr. Wallace said, until we send out those bills, we just haven't got the amount of people in this room like we had last week and tonight.
I guess that's my question is I'm ignorant to the training pipeline.
They'll already be certified when we hire them. So we're going to hire them out of Gulf Coast Fire Standards or Chipola.
They'll come to you certified.
Yeah, they'll be firefighter 2. There's a statute that requires that. So they go to school. In Florida, firefighters go to school on their own dime, and then they look for a job, unless you're in a big city or Orlando where they hire you and put you through an academy.
So that'll be one of your conditions for employment, that you come here certified?
Yeah, the requirement will be firefighter 2. Yes, when I advertise, it'll be required.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Rob Cole, 301 Broadway. I'm really new to town. I can take a lot, so I'm gonna make up real good. I come from Gray, Maine, and we've got a spectacular fire department there. But it doesn't happen overnight. It's taken years of people paying a good amount of tax to develop that fire rescue system that we have. It's wonderful. And I think there isn't anybody here that doesn't want to have a real good fire department, especially if their house is on fire. So, I see flaws in this presentation, and I do. I respect everything you've said and the way you've presented it. I think it's great. But I see flaws in it, and people aren't going to be able to pay. Some people just won't pay. How are you going to collect that, and so on. And it does come down to spreading this burden of the fire department fairly through the community. And what you say about you roll in your fire trucks, this costs the same whether it's $1 million house or $100,000 house, it's the same. But those people aren't paying the same insurance rates. And what each individual rates are going to go up, it's going to be more for the $1 million house certainly than it is. So there's a way to make it fair. And I don't think we've addressed that properly. I also think that this burden falls back on the town, but not on the taxpayers or the residents. It falls on the town to address this issue. My question is, have you looked at doing a bond to fund whatever you need to do, and then deal with the cost of it on a fair basis from that point on, so that it is fair? It doesn't tax the grocery store. It doesn't tax an elderly person that is on a very fixed income, and maybe it's just barely making it. Have we looked at that from a more reasonable point of view? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Wilson. I'm from 202 Virginia Drive. I just went through this in the city of Inverness, Citrus County, Florida. Everything I've heard is the same thing that I heard at those meetings. Fortunately, I left before they decided to do what they were going to do. I don't know if you have the details on. They might.
I think they implemented a pretty high fire assessment, and which is common in that area. Their assessments are about 3 times our rate.
We didn't have any qualified firefighters, so we got whacked. Then they implemented it, and I'm not sure how they did it because I moved to Mexico Beach.
Yes, sir.
But I've heard from the residents the same thing I heard from the residents there. But I will guarantee one thing, your insurance will go up because it went up there before they got it south. So that's what I wanted to say earlier, but I just wanted to listen to some more of the arguments.
I got you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Let's keep, yes, sir. Gary, go ahead.
I just want to make a quick statement. I've heard all kind of good ideas and the direction that the town needs to go in. And I mean, and there are really some ideas that the council needs to address in the upcoming months. But I think we're losing sight of one thing. That's what Mr. Wiley said a while ago. If we've only got 10 places that insure us here in this city, and 8 of them refuse, and by the way, my insurance company told me if we went to 10, they would cancel me right then. And I talked to my insurer, Mr. Hammond down here, they said they could probably give me some insurance, but they could not guarantee what the rate would be. Nobody knows because we've not experienced it. The point I'm making is we need to go forward with our problem that we're addressing right now, the 356. Let's take care of that. Then in the coming months, let's move in a different direction, which might make it easier on all of us. But right now, we don't have a whole lot of options, folks. Y'all come up with some great ideas, but you can't implement them in 3 or 4 months. And the fire chief has come up with a plan that I think will work for the city. I hope it'll work, because it's gonna cost millions like it costs everyone else. Well, I think we need to pass 356 and move on through this fiscal year, then come up with a new way to attack this, and hopefully our council can do that. We can't just sit around here and procrastinate and do nothing.
But Gary, didn't they say they're not going to reassess for another 5 years?
I didn't hear that.
No. So we're on probation right now, and my last report is due July 12th. And now after we get published, which is, if we implement this, we'll go to a 6, September 11th, that'll be published. If we don't implement it and we go to a 10, that'll be published. We're a year and a half from another request. Now, they only come an average of every 5. Our last was 2006, so we don't know when they're coming. But say we think we're going to improve in a year and a half and we can come down to a 5 or a 4 or wherever, we would request another audit. But when they come, these last 2 audits were not requested. 2006, they came. I don't know what happened then. And then they came in 2017 before I took the job. I was not part of the audit here. I was part of another local department. So that's kind of where we stand there. Now, the 5 years is the average of when they just come and randomly audit you without you asking for it, rather.
I want to say that first of all, I want to say I'm all for our fire department. I support my fire department by 100%. I do have some questions whether or not that particular way that he's going to respond to fires is going to get us the protection that we're all talking about. Of course, we're caught in a rock and a hard place, like this guy said. IFO, did I understand you said they're telling you if you do this, you'll go to a 6?
Yeah, we received 40.9 points, which puts us a 6. The problem is we didn't meet the minimum requirements of the 4 certified personnel and then the training. The training's already been addressed. It's the personnel that are certified. And so this plan was drawn and submitted to him long ago, and that's what he agreed would keep us from going to a 10, and then our points put us at a 6, so.
So with the water checking and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's all been done.
That you got done. And the other thing I would say is that I told you we get 3 years, and he said they don't come in 5. You don't know when they come. They can come anytime.
Yeah, you can only request them.
Okay.
Okay.
They can come anytime. They can come back after you do this just to make sure that you did do it. And all they do is going to take your word for it that you did it. Because when you fill out your reports are going to say how many firemen you've had respond to that fire. And I'm going to ask you one question, then I'm going to step down. If you had a fire down at the pier in those houses, would you feel comfortable rolling a truck with 2 firemen to that fire and putting other people in that position?
No, I wanted 12. I couldn't get it.
That was a real good round.
Yes, ma'am.
That attitude's not going to get you any volunteers.
George, that's you.
My question is, you say you need 4 certified firemen at the site when there's a fire, right? Do they all have to be professional, and can any of them be volunteers?
Yeah, they just have to be certified. The standard for volunteers is to be certified at the firefighter 1 level. To be paid, you have to be certified at the firefighter 2 level, and that's just a Florida rule.
Okay. As of in 2011, we had, I don't know the number, but they were all certified. Have any of these former volunteer firefighters been approached, talked to, anything at all? Because would they have to be recertified, and how long would that take?
Once you lose your certification, you have to start the process all the way over.
So it's a year. So it's still a year
It-
if you could get them back.
Yeah, unless they went to Gulf Coast full time, then they could do it in 9 months. But they would have to not work a job and go there every day.
Okay, have any of them been approached?
Yes.
Okay, and the answer was no?
Yes, I've been approached. I used to be on the volunteer fire department. I'm no longer on it. Yes, ma'am, I have been approached. I'm
Okay.
going back to the fire department.
Okay, good to know.
What about the rest of them?
Sure, I talked to them. I mean, we're all trying to make this situation as best as we can make it. I personally, I've worked here 11 years, lived in this area my entire life. I love this place. You couldn't drag me out of here with a beer bill. I just love it here. But what I'm hearing, we've got to do something. This isn't a situation that created itself in the last year. This is something that's created itself since the entire time I worked here, 11 years. You know, we've chose to, fire departments are expensive. When I was on the fire department, we didn't have a budget either. You know, I understand that this isn't a popular subject. I understand that everybody's worried about the assessment. I get that. I pay assessment where I live, fire assessment. I do not live in town. I live over in Panama City. But I also don't think it's right that we're jumping all over the Chiefs case in some instances. I do feel that we should at least acknowledge the job that he's done up to this point in the 6 short months that he's been here. I'm not jumping on his bandwagon because we work together. I just know what he's going through, and I think that we should all try to be a little more patient with one another. And that door does swing both ways.
Yes.
Okay, next hand. Yes, ma'am.
Just briefly, I understand that the 6 people that you need are already certified, or they will be by the time you need them?
They have to be before we can employ them. That's just the law.
And did you say that they have to live in Mexico Beach?
No, we
They
can't
do
require
not.
that. No, they do not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yes, sir, George.
I got
gotta get up to the podium and spread their stuff out.
Okay, watch your head.
And be close to law enforcement.
Okay.
Something I shouldn't. My name's George Gill. I live at 120 4th Street. And I spoke at the workshop last week, and you know, there were a lot of good comments, a lot of good questions, and the PowerPoint presentation was real helpful, and I appreciate that. But I got some concerns and some questions, and I've really tried to look at this from every angle that I possibly could. I spent a lot of days on the computer and on the telephone talking to people, and there's a lot of conflicting information. I mean, there's stuff that I'm going to say in a few minutes that conflict with what people are saying back here, and that's one of my points. You gave me 9 minutes at the workshop before tapping me on the shoulder.
I'll give you 7 today.
And then you gave me 3 more before, so I'm gonna read so that I can get through some of this. And I kind of got to disagree. I've heard nothing but praise for Chief Simmons. I mean, all I've heard is what a great job he's doing, how hard he's working. So I don't know where that came from. Everybody supports our fire department. You can't have an incorporated city, as I understand it, without public safety, fire, and police. So here's my worry. Here's my concerns. There's a general perception among all of us that a vote of no tonight on this assessment fee is a vote against good fire protection, and that's just not true. You know, we can have good fire protection. We can have good fire protection with an ISO rating of 10. I think another problem is we're letting ISO drive the train here. We're talking about we got to get going and we got to do this because we've got a deadline. We got to do all this by September. And once again, there's so much information out there that I don't think we've tapped into. We talked about grants, and I've heard millage rates, and I've talked to local fire departments, and they shake their head when they know that a town the size of Mexico Beach is going after 6 full-time certified firefighters. The percentage of state of Florida incorporated cities that use volunteers was a lot lower tonight by Chief Simmons than what I found, and I looked at the FEMA site myself. I told you last week, nationwide, 70% of all certified firefighters, in fact over 70%, are volunteers. Volunteers are head and shoulders less expensive. No benefits package. You can still pay them. You might not pay them as much, but you can still pay them. They're getting paid per call right now in most places. We heard a gentleman at the workshop tell us that he had 34 years of firefighting experience. Was familiar with ISO. He said this won't work. This won't get us a 6. We're going to have more firefighters than 6 full-time FTEs and hopefully a couple, 3 or 4 volunteers. If we don't have that, all we're doing is walking up to the edge of the cliff, stepping off, and on our way down, hope that parachute works to get us from a 10 to a 9 or a 6 or whatever. We don't know for sure. Let me tell you what I talked to. I talked to one of our neighboring fire departments, a city of about 4,600 people, ISO score of 4. Chief of police talked to me directly, spent about 25 minutes with me. Been in firefighting business for 25 years. And he said this plan of 6 full-time FTEs, 1 fire engine, and some repairs and renovations to our current fire department will not change the rating that ISO is planning to regress us to. You're going to have a whole lot more staff to do that. Now, here's a man that's got 25 years experience, lives in the area, knows Mexico Beach very well. In fact, he was telling me about our water pressure down here as far as the fire hydrants go. You got a man last week that owns property down here, 34 years of firefighting experience. These 2 guys are hands-on frontline firefighters that have been doing it for a long, long time and are telling me and us collectively at the workshop, we can do this. And we can think maybe it's going to save our insurance rates. But and I heard Chief Simmons say this at the workshop, there's no guarantee. Now today, he's a little bit stronger. We're going to get a 6 if all this goes into play. Last week it wasn't that. Last week it's, well, we're not going to stay at 10, but I can't really tell you where we're going to fall. So that's more information, more data, more study that needs to be looked at before you folks make a vote up here. I know it's been going on longer than last September. The chief that I talked to was so familiar with Mexico Beach, he said it's been going on for 15 years. But let's don't jump off that cliff without knowing that parachute's going to work for us. Let's table this thing or put a stay on it. Give us another month. Listen, Chief's got high hopes of filling all these positions by June or July, and I'm all for them. And I'd love to see it if that's the route we take. I told you at the workshop, I've tried to fill FTEs in previous positions. If you want good people, it's not as simple as having a vacancy and putting an ad in the paper. You want good quality people to come here. You don't want just warm bodies. We don't have enough information to make a really informed decision, yay or nay on this thing. I'm no researcher, but I told Mayor Kathy before the meeting, I got a box from the workshop last week to today. I have got a box full of stuff that I don't have time to present, and it's all good information. Comes from reliable sites. And the people that I've talked to are I consider them to be experts. I mean, GSG, I know, is a good firm, and they got experts. I don't know how many certified firefighters they have. I don't know how many frontline, hands-on firefighters that help make their evaluations, but I know the guys that spoke to me and spoke to the workshop are experts in this, and they're telling us, folks, this ain't going to work here. This is not going to work. And I think we need to listen to them, and I don't think putting this thing off for another month or two, we're letting a deadline drive the program. We're letting that September 2018 deadline drive our decision making. We got to do it by this date. Hey, you know what happened to the shuttle Challenger in 2013 when they had to make that deadline? NASA had to make that deadline. They killed 7 astronauts, and they knew that they shouldn't launch. They shouldn't launch, but they had to make a deadline. And I'm telling you, we shouldn't launch. Think about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I don't exactly agree with my friend George there, but I would say this. Mexico Beach is a unique community. Look around you. How many people here who could pass the firefighter test? That you could cross 105-foot line with 62 pounds weight on it. There's not many. And even fewer that go involved. We don't have many people who can volunteer and that will volunteer and do it. So then, when you look at the two paths, there's one path that our chief, who I think is as expert as anybody else that we've talked to and heard from and all that sort of stuff, says that they can do that. That's his job to know that. The other path is, we don't have any volunteers, and we're not gonna get any volunteers. And it's just the way it is. And that's the only difference. I would agree, we could go get volunteers if they were here, we could train them up, get them certified, we could fight this stuff. We got nothing to fight with here.
Okay.
Real quick, I'm gonna spar with it for just a second. I'm not sure we've tried hard enough. You know, the fire chief that I talked to and all the information says, and I mentioned, getting volunteers is hard work. You got to recruit them. You've got to offer them incentives. You gotta pay them a little bit. You gotta make them want to come here. You gotta advertise. I go into the stores all the time. I've not seen one flyer anywhere that says Mexico Beach looking for volunteers.
I've ran 3 ads since I started employment here in
Where?
2013 in the newspaper.
All right. How about radio? How about television? How about contacting Chief?
All right, we're gonna wind this up. Yeah, we're going.
George getting last word. I'll just say this, the people who waited around to leave the Titanic, there wasn't any boats left for them.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I know it has went to vote, but if it goes to vote, and it's 280 or 356 assessed, and then again in November assessed, then how do we, that letter pretty much stated that it would be assessed going forward. How then do you back away from the assessment and get it on the millage if that's the decision that's made tonight? What assurance do we have that it'll go to the value of your property under millage? Because it was said last week that we couldn't tap into sales tax or any local tax because we missed that opportunity. We said, no, at some point you can't go back and ask. So is the same thing gonna happen here? Are we not going to be able, once we put it on an assessment on our, with Bay County, not to get millage?
We can change it any way the council desires, and we need to have a hearing every single year to do this. So there is no guarantee it's going to go to a millage. That'll be the next discussion. But there is a guarantee that this hearing will happen every single year.
Mayor? Mr. Mayor? Is it time that we can talk up here?
Well, it's a public hearing.
I know.
So I believe this
I'm
subject
public
bears
too.
everyone here an opportunity to speak. So I'm going to ask now, are there any other that choose to speak? If not, we're going to close the public hearing. Now, when we close it, we have closed it. So I want, this is your time. If you're sitting there, should I or should I not, don't pass it up. This is your time. Okay? Any other comments from the floor? Yes, sir.
I just have one comment real quick. Like, we, the citizens of Mexico Beach, elected each of you all to represent our interest. You have heard the interest of the majority of the citizens. Please represent us.
And in the back, I saw a hand, but yes, sir.
Colin Water, 65 First Street.
Your name again?
Colin, C-Y-N.
Okay.
I think we have reached an emergency situation, all of us. I think by using the $1 million part of that fund, it will make us a common goal within City Council and the citizens of Mexico Beach. And a good show of good faith that we have to work hard at this, everybody, to do the right thing.
Thank you, sir.
That's it.
Okay, here we go. Ma'am, with due respect to you, I want so bad, but we've got to come to an end. So I'm going to recognize you if it's short term.
I'll come up and ask you after.
That'll be fine. Okay, we close the public hearing. To the table.
Bill McLaughlin, 406 5th Street, Mexico Beach. I say that because I too, like you, are a citizen. This has been probably as close to me individually as anything in the past couple of years that I've been sitting here has ever been. I mean, this is very personal to me. One of our citizens had indicated that he was not happy because all of a sudden this seemed to be coming up and it should have been taken care of in the past. I've been here 11 years. I've sat out there a whole lot of my time during that 11 years. Only been here a couple of years. He's right. But the other thing that I had to smile about tonight, I don't think you saw it, I tried to make sure you didn't, is that this is the first time I've heard a group of citizens being willing to add to the millage rate. Typically, the past couple of times in any meetings I've been into, as major items have come up for fire, for police, or so forth, much of them have been naysayed by the few that show up because it just raises the rate too much. I like the idea of putting it on the millage rate, but to do that, you all have to back that, not just tonight, but when it comes up, and the millage rate will increase pretty significantly to cover what needs to be done. Hope you understand. I did do the research that probably was indicated that we should have done individually. I am a citizen. I did it for me. It's personal. Much of what's been said has already been said that I had here about the doubling and so forth of the rates. The one thing that didn't come up, and I'll bring up in that area, is that indeed I talked to my insurance company. I talked to my agent first, and they said only has one in the group he does. He didn't tell me how many. It can't be more than 8, but he only has one that will write 10. Wouldn't give me numbers, but said, yeah, it's going to go up. The other thing is, I'm also, besides owning a home, I still have a mortgage on my home. It's not paid off. Close, but not there. So I called my mortgage company because one of the rumors going around, or one of the things that had been said, we may not be able to find, because the low number of companies, some of my citizens may not be able to find insurance. So I called them. I said, what will happen? I can't get insurance. They told me, Mr. McLaughlin, we'll put insurance on your mortgage. Whatever it would be at the current rate in the open market, it'll be 4 times that when I put it on your mortgage. Folks, iOS is going to be here whether we take 2 months to keep discussing or going. There is a good plan in place. There are things that we possibly can do in the future. Put it on the millage rate. It's certainly worth looking at. Fire district, I don't know. I've heard from you all for that. But again, that's a long-term thing. I addressed that one earlier. But as a homeowner, compared to my insurance rate going up, what I've been told by my companies, and I've talked to 3 insurance companies, the insurance commissioner, my agent, and my mortgage company. It's pretty significant. The amount of money that we're being asked to pay this year is fairly small. I understand, I didn't look anything in for our businesses, but my understanding is business rates are higher than real estate or than resident rates, and I can't believe they wouldn't go up something similar. I appreciate we probably need to look at something next year to help them, but they're going to get hurt just as bad. The one thing I can say, sitting here, someone said, do my job. I can look at what I know it's going to cost to get the best I think for you, or I can throw the dice. I don't have the guts. I'll be honest, I don't have the guts to take chances with your money and throw the dice. What I'm saying is, yeah, I'm for the assessment this year. I'm for also looking at anything we can do to make it better and cheaper as we go ahead and have the proper department. But if we don't, folks, and I vote no, I'm throwing the dice, and I'm not going to do that.
All right, I'm a citizen, as you all know. I don't want to spend the money But when you look at it, it's $1 a day. Or if we go with the 270 something, it's less than $1 a day for the year. How many of you go out to Starbucks and get a $5 cup of coffee or $7 cup of coffee? So, and maybe you don't. I also agree with the volunteers. We had a great volunteer system years ago. For some reason, and I don't know why, I wasn't on council, that's between, we don't have one. We have tried to get volunteers the last few years, and I did see some hands go up that you could pass the test. But how many of you have volunteered to be on the fire department that raised your hand that said you could pass the test? We're not a young-aged community that is our go-getters to do those kinds of things anymore. So I don't see any option. Yes, I'm gonna go with, let's hit that deadline. Because the unknown, to me, is worse than going for that deadline. Can we get it on the millage rate come budget time in the summer? That's a decision that we make now. We didn't have the time to get it on the millage rate when we got the letter. But that's a discussion we will have in the summer, I am sure, during budget time.
You guys got to come?
I would just like to see this crowd show up every night, believe it or not. I mean, really, people have brought up points here that need to be looked at seriously. And, you know, when you get 8 or 10 people sitting in the crowd, and we've been talking about this, and the only place we can legally talk about this is right here. We can't all get together and go out and say, yeah, what's the best way to do this? So you all are hearing our conversations as they're coming up. And that's the time for your input. But, you know, and I do take a little issue that we have been working on this. And I lost count at 20-something people that I've talked to on the phone. Anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. And thank God most of them were local. And then I appreciate the fact we have 75 individuals here signing this thing. That's 2.9% of the population. 2.9% of the population. I think we're having to look at what's good for the whole population. Now, I don't like it. As I mentioned before, I'm not crazy about ISO, but ISO is telling us what we must do. There's no if, ands, or buts. We can't put it off a month or two. They've already told us what's going to happen. You know, I got the letter here too, dated September the 11th. We've been talking about this since September the 11th.
And before.
And so, anyway, I do appreciate the fact that everybody showed up to give their 2 cents worth tonight.
Briefly, I just signature was only in the last 3 days.
Well, that's really good, but it's still just 2.9%.
The only thing I'd say is the amount of work Danny does, we go in there once or twice a week, and when we get these questions, and I had about 15 that I got, and we hit him with those questions, and we ask him things, is this, and I don't mean to say cheap, but is this the least expensive way we can do this? And we hammer him, I say we, I don't know what they do, I'm not in there with them, but I hammer him because I want him to be able to have the trust of us and the trust of you too. A lot of good ideas. The millage rate, I have no problem with it. It'd be great to look at it. The bond, I don't know if that's possible or not, but somebody mentioned that. We can look at it. And I think everybody here would be open to looking at any better way to do this. But right now, I don't know if there's a better way to do this. I hear a lot of things. I hear one solution, and I hear a lot of questions. But we're just like the citizens here. We don't have all the answers. We have to get the answers, and Danny has done that.
Okay. I think all of us are that you deserve to know our feelings from this table. And mine is certainly going to be in the minority because of two main reasons. One, the people that I've heard from that are knowledgeable, that aren't scared of ISO, that have done it for years, that I've sat down and talked to, tell me that this is a bad path. Second thing is that concerns me that the ISO, not in any way to discredit Chief Simmons, but that's just a verbal, nothing on paper, nothing signed by anyone, that this is what's going to happen. If we do all this, we're going to be a 6. I have a hard time with that. Maybe I'm one of those people with the insurance. I'm not a big insurance person, but I'm willing to roll the dice because I think that it's not, there's way too many rocks that haven't been turned over, and I'm not comfortable telling our business community, single-family homeowners, that we need to raise $900,000 in Mexico Beach to have a fire department. All right. Next on the agenda is a resolution 2018-03.
So did it pass?
We haven't gotten there.
We're moving on. Do I have a motion to read 2018-03 by title only?
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. Any opposition to reading? Please do so.
Resolution 2018-03, a resolution of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, relating to the provision of fire protection services, facilities and programs in the City of Mexico Beach, establishing legislative findings, imposing fire services assessments against assessed property located within the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017, approving the rate of assessment, approving the assessment roll, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Do I have a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
We're talking about 79%?
Unless the council tells me differently.
No, I want 79%. I don't want,
So,
281's a lot better than 300 and something.
right, so the
Yes.
79% is 281 per
Right.
residential.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
For the,
Well, that's not what it says.
Well, we need to change it.
Well, that's not what we read.
I think it is the one that's in your packet. That is what it says. 281 residential, 40 cents a square foot for non-residential, and $43
Okay,
a vacant land.
okay, so it's just not in the title.
It's not in the title, yeah.
no.
Okay.
No, it's,
Okay.
It's in the.
It's in the main body of the ordinance.
it's in here, yes.
Yeah.
This resolution incorporates everything from the initial resolution, except the rates have been updated. So it still incorporates the hardship exemption, it still
Right, I
incorporates
saw that, but
everything that we did last month.
okay.
Do we have an idea when we're going to try to collect this?
You got to vote.
The mailing would go out end of February, beginning of March, and if council is doing what staff recommended, it would be May 31st.
May 31st?
Due date.
Okay, would be the deadline,
Would be the due date to pay.
the due date.
So is that part of what we're voting?
It's not in
No,
here,
No,
but-
so
It's not
we're
in
just
here.
voting on the 281.
So we'd have, okay, March, April, May, June,
End of May.
end of May, okay. Just want to get that straight. Yeah, okay.
Okay, there's a motion to adopt, there's a motion and a second made on the adoption. Any further comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
No.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Okay, next is the resolution 2018-04. Do I have a,
Do we need to,
we'll take a short recess.
Let the room clear.
Oh, I nearly did that.
do we need to
yet. I'm at, watch it.
agree on either March 31st or May 31st. You know, we said originally we were going to have payments March 31st. The staff is recommending May 31st.
We're gonna take just a moment, let those that are leaving, if you're leaving, please go ahead and leave. Don't stop at the door and talk. We can finish our meeting. Okay. Just a moment, we're in the, we passed this fire assessment. Well, yeah, we do.
Questions about what you're voting on.
It was on the screen.
It's on the screen, Resolution 2018, yeah, it is.
I understand that, sir, but it has different stuff in there. You just passed it on a lower number to assess us, and it's not, I don't see that in there.
Yeah, it is.
It's in there.
It's in there.
Right there.
It's in there.
You rather pay the higher amount?
No, sir, but you were asking questions to them over there during your voting process. So obviously you didn't know what you were voting for.
All
I
right,
think
here
I
we
did.
go.
Yes, I did.
Listen, we passed the motion, we passed the resolution, it is, in its entirety, is on the screen, it's available, we passed the 79%, which is the way it is listed for this current assessment. The full assessment is part of, depending on whatever we decide we're gonna do again, come in November. I want to make sure everybody understands that. We've passed 79% because they're in our general fund budget for this current year is funds that will be used to offset that other 21%. But come November, when the assessment goes again, we'll be at the full assessed rate of the 354, I believe it is, 356.
I'm sorry.
Okay, just to make sure everybody follows what we're doing. All right, we're moving on now to Resolution 2018-04.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
We were talking about assessment due March 31st, and the staff has recommended May 31st. Do we need to should we follow up with that now, since we just did the fire, or can that be done anyplace? You see what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's the way it's written.
Right.
You're welcome to have a motion if you'd like, but it's been stated clearly on the record, and I think that's the intent, just the May 31st date.
I mean, that's the date that's in there. Somebody, do you want to change that?
No,
I don't think it's in the resolution.
it's not in the resolution.
Oh, it is not in the,
No.
I'm sorry, I
No.
misunderstood.
Just
I
says,
apologize.
it says it'll be collected by mail.
Say that again, Nick.
It says the bills will be mailed, it doesn't provide the due date of the resolution. It does say though.
Do we need, is that the important, is that an important piece of what we need to do?
If there's any hesitation about that May 31st date, discuss it and deal with it, but otherwise, I think you just move forward with staff recommendation.
That's fine with me.
It's fine.
Okay, all right, resolution, do I have a motion to read Resolution 2018-04 by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition to reading? Please do so.
Resolution 2018-04. It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, relating to membership in the Florida Retirement System. And I can explain.
Okay, this is also, just for general information, this resolution ties the firefighters into the Florida retirement system. That's what this does. All right, motion to adopt.
So moved.
Have a motion second, any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
No.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yeah.
All right, under other business, Toucan's lease, who's, Nick or Mel, you doing that one?
I can start and I'll have our attorney pick up the pieces
Okay.
once I fail. Back in 1989, there was a 20-year lease between the city and then owners of Toucan's. There's an area just east of Toucan's that is owned by the city. And I'll put that on the map here. You can see that little waving hand there. That is a stairway going down from 98 down to the front door of Toucans. That stairway has a line going down the middle of it. In other words, Toucans owns the western half and the city owns the eastern half. So it's very important to Toucans that they continue with this lease. That 1989 lease was for 20 years. We redid it to reflect a one-year lease that automatically renews. But we've heard from the bank that is financing the new potential owners of Toucans that a one-year renewal is not acceptable to them. They prefer a 20-year lease again because they want to protect their investment into the local economy. If we cannot allow the 20-year lease, then they simply will not make the loan. Now, something that we discovered, the 1989 lease had property leased not just here, but also onto the beach to the water line. What we found, there was this particular survey done in 2013 that reflects just the area east of the building itself. And so we inserted this legal description into the new lease. So we no longer will be leasing part of our beach. It's just that area where the waiting area is and the walkover and that sort of thing. The lease ensures that the owner of Toucans is responsible for the maintenance of that whole area. They do allow the public walkway to be used by the public. So insurance is done by Toucans. The city has no responsibility. Fact is, last year there was a time when someone tripped on a nail that had come up out of the board, and of course Toucans took care of all the medical and the insurance and everything. Didn't cost the city a thing. So that's where we are.
Just for clarification, the leased, the description of the lease is the boxed-in area that also includes the public walkway?
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's the way it was in '89, right?
Correct.
It's actually larger in 89. It went all the way to the water.
Right, went to the water.
Do we have any leeway in case somebody buys it and lets it run down the steps and all that to come back and force them to do something to it?
Well, that's why the attorney suggested the year-to-year lease that automatically renews, because if the new owners take over and don't really perform as we would like them to, that would give us a vehicle by which we could take over maintenance and make it right.
So they do have the obligation to maintain those structures that are there, and if they didn't, we could default them and try to cancel the lease. It's just difficult to actually.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd think if they're going to spend the money to buy the place, they're going to maintain it, you would think.
They have that obligation under the lease.
Okay.
The reason the automatically renewing year-to-year term came about, that was my suggestion. I just felt uncomfortable with a 20-year lease of public property for free because of the way the business was designed. I didn't really feel uncomfortable with the year-to-year because if a problem arose, if we realized at some point in the future, or maybe there's a lawsuit, we couldn't lease out this public property, well then we just wouldn't renew it, instead of having maybe 15, 18 years worth of damages from a private business claimed against us.
Or basically, it's good faith on both people, on the city's part and their part.
And the year-to-year renewal, it wasn't intended to cut them short, it was intended to protect us if there was a problem. It was only today that the bank said, no, that's not good enough, we need the full 20 years, so we're just having to deal with it tonight. And as a conversation, there's not an updated lease for that. It was probably after lunchtime they talked to you about this, right, Mel?
Right.
So really what we're interested in is, if you're even interested in considering this 20-year fixed term, maybe there's some history to this development, this restaurant, the way this lease was set up that we're not aware of. And both of us are fairly new, but it looks a little unusual to do a new 20-year for free lease of that area along the beach. We have to justify public purpose. There has to be a reason why we would use public land, long-term 20 years with no compensation.
Did you get the feeling they were not willing to negotiate this point?
I didn't speak to them, no.
I suggested we do for maybe a shorter term, maybe 10 years or something in the middle, and the answer is no, because here's the bottom line. They're writing a 20-year mortgage for this place, and 20 years covers them during that period.
Why don't we set?
All right. Question. 20-year mortgage, and if 5 years from now, whomever the owner would be sells it, the mortgage has to be renewed. How would that affect the lease?
You're asking if we might fall in a situation where it
No,
starts
no,
over
I'm
at
asking.
20 or 30? It's
Okay,
possible.
we write a lease for 20 years. I bought the place, I own it.
Right.
5 years from now, I sell it to Mel. He lets it go to Hannah in a handbasket.
I would never do that.
My question though is, if I sell it, does that end the lease?
No, the lease normally would be purchased along with the rest of the property, and if there's 15 years left on it, there'd be 15 years left on it. We'd have to approve
I
an
think
assignment.
we would have to renew it at least if it's sold to a new owner.
It would be an assignment. We would typically approve that sort of thing.
Yeah, this lease does specifically say it's assignable to the bank.
Oh, that's right. To the bank, yeah. That's automatic, but it doesn't require our approval, but to another party, it would require our approval, but we generally approve those. It's for the remainder of the term, it's not to start it over.
That's all, 20-year lease.
Okay. So, do you have a recommendation?
Well, my recommendation was the automatically renewing year to year. Now, that isn't going to work for the transaction they're working on right now, and ultimately the choice is yours, whether to do the full 20 years or this safer approach for the city. My recommendation was the
Right,
automatic
but
renewal.
I
Year to year.
understand, yeah, you said that earlier, but in light of, sort of back to what Rex said,
Yeah.
the selling of that is something that I wouldn't think would be in the best interest of the city to sell that public access property. That's my personal opinion. Access property from Highway 98 to the beach is invaluable for public access, to me.
That's true. I agree.
They have maintained that. I don't know personally of any issues in 20 years that there's been any, the city hasn't spent, that I'm aware of, any money, public funds, tax dollars. It's a highly used area. I personally don't have an issue with the lease.
The bank did suggest that every 5 years, there's a review by both parties to make sure we're both performing up to snuff. But of course, that doesn't hold any weight. You review it, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but if they don't, let's take, from our point of view, the worst case scenario is that we go down there and the boards and nails everywhere, the board, it's not maintained. We don't have to, I mean, we can call them on that.
We could terminate at that point, and I expect them to maintain the property well.
That's what
We're
I
getting a
mean.
free lease.
So if they don't perform, it's not that we don't, I mean, we don't have to wait 20 years we can call them and their attention to the lease. Just like in the Poke Ramp that we have with St. Joe. There's an area, there's a section in there that says what we, they give us written notice, we don't take care of whatever they say.
So we need to vote on this, right?
Yeah, that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. I want to make sure everybody's comfortable with what we're doing before we just call for a vote.
Yeah, and we'd be looking for a motion to either approve the 20-year term or
Right.
the 1-year automatic renewing term.
And the other, go ahead.
No, what Al was saying, so if we go with the 20-year term, can we have that in the contract? Or what Al would say, if you're not performing, if we find a default in keeping it up, then we can pull it. I'm sure you can.
Well, they're going to be
That's in
insured.
that's in the
I know.
lease.
They're required to do maintenance.
Okay.
They're required to do that.
Yeah.
It's not
What-
automatic, they get a cure period like a normal kind of contract would see.
And Dale's right, the review
If-
of 5 years,
If the bank's,
go ahead.
if the bank's willing to review every 5 years, what's the chance of the automatic renewal every 5 years? I'm not particularly thrilled with a 20-year lease
Well,
personally.
they want 20 years,
I
but
wouldn't mind giving
the
up.
mortgage person is going to make sure they keep it up.
Oh, I understand that. All I'm saying is, 20 years for $1, and our lawyer has recommended an automatic renewal 1 year, which they've said, no. I can understand that.
So I
But
think,
I
it-
would like to have, at least see if we could try and get a, automatic renewal every 5 years.
yeah, I
Just
just-
tried it.
that's not going to work.
No, it was a 1 year, I thought. Did you try 5 years?
Well, I had suggested we do for a term shorter than 20 to see if they'd meet us in the middle, maybe at 10, and they said no.
What they're looking for is something that matches the length of the loan.
Length of mortgage.
So
Right.
they're
And my
sure-
concern is our property protected? As long as it is, then that's the,
Yeah.
to me, what's more important than the term of the lease.
They're not going to sue us, they're going to sue
So-
them. Okay.
All right, so, other questions? Chair will entertain a motion.
I move we accept the
20-year lease.
The 20-year lease.
Second. Have a motion, second, discussion? I see a hand, yes, ma'am. Just stand, it's too late tonight, just stand where you are.
Lisa Logan, Maryland. Why are you not charging them more than $1 a year for incredibly prime real estate? That's a multi-million-dollar business, isn't it? And that's public beach access, so why would you not be willing to get some better compensation than $1 a year?
Valid question.
Well, I can speak for me that they maintain it and
We use it just like it's ours anyway,
so, I mean, it's, it's.
and we don't have,
It's public. I mean, it's public, it's for the public.
and we don't have to insure it. Somebody falls and breaks their neck, the restaurant pays for it. So we've got the best thing in both worlds here, as far as I'm concerned. We don't have any liability whatsoever. And we anticipate that they're going to take care of it and keep it in good shape because their bank is going to make sure they do. I think it's a,
All right, there's a motion and a second. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I might have missed this during y'all's crosstalk. With the 20-year lease, can we put language that protects the city where if it does change ownership within that 20, that we can have reserve the right to renegotiate the length of the lease with the new purchaser?
yeah.
Council, I'm gonna turn that over. That's not a.
We can, we just have to propose it and see if it's accepted. That's probably not what the bank's worried about because they get the automatic approval of the assignment to the bank if the bank has to take over.
Right.
Was
I
there-
think
We
speak
could
to
do
it.
that if we chose.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, if it's protected by the lease, whether it be 3 years, 5 years, I mean, that's my concern. And I'm satisfied that it is.
Me too.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes. Miscellaneous?
Hope there's not any.
Thank God we got none. Okay. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
You want a second?
You can write one down. Just pick one, eh?